All right, everyone. I want everybody that watches on a regular basis to take note. Take note of the time. So if you're watching the replay, you're not going to know this, but you got to trust me. You got to believe me. And for everybody that's watching right this second, we're 10 minutes early. 10 minutes early. That must mean that I'm stoked for week 0. That is the only explanation that I can come up with. Everybody getting on me on a regular basis, rightfully so, for being a couple minutes late. That's kind of the fashionably late voice of college football entrance. However, tonight, early, 10 minutes early. So there's all of 10 of you who can take advantage of that. So we appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Just wrapped up a segment with Ryan Cantor from Shaking the Southland and Tiger Net to talk up the Clemson Tigers and get to the heart of where's this Clemson team going to be this season. So check out those segments. They're going to be posted starting tomorrow over on the Clemson channel. Again, Ryan Cantor, Shaking the Southland, Tiger Net. And we sized it up this way. In addition to all the positional breakdowns we did, Georgia Tech's the first opponent on a Monday night. The college football schedulers could have done a little bit better for us leading into all the NFL Monday nights. There's one college football Monday night. There's one college football Monday night with one game, nationally televised. Everybody has to watch that if they want to watch college football. And they give us Clemson and Georgia Tech, a conference game. Anyway, a bad conference game. Anyway, back to Clemson. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State seem to be the givens this year. Is there anybody out there not predicting Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State to be in the playoff? Or if not in the playoff, then it's typically the thought that, okay, Georgia's going to get left out because they're going to lose to Alabama in the SEC championship game, and they're not both going to get in, but Georgia's probably still one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the country. It's almost as if all of us, including myself, and of course my predictions are starting to roll out. Hopefully you're catching up with those. We have released a number of predictions, 10 or 11 team predictions, Tennessee being the latest right here on the main channel, that Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia are givens. Then Clemson is in this odd category where about half the country believes Clemson's back to elite. They're going to fix the problems from 10-3 last year, which was number 1 quarterback, number 2 offensive line, number 3 receivers. So that's a lot to fix on offense because they had breakdowns in all 3 of those areas. I know DJ Uiagalelei gets blamed for all of it, but it was offensive line related. And it was wide receivers not playing up to the standard that we've seen at Clemson for 10 years. So it seems like half the media analysts, commentators, and also half of the fans, about half, believe Clemson's just going to jump back to elite and join the other 3. And whomever else you think should be there, could be there, Notre Dame, Michigan, Oklahoma, USC, a lot of outsiders. Or that Clemson, well, they showed us those flaws at 10-3 and they haven't fixed them. So they're really good. They're a good team, great defense, maybe the best in the country, but they cannot get back to the elite level. So Clemson seems to be in between that top tier and the next tier. We're elite, not elite. I've laid out my prediction there on the Clemson channel, so check it out. And again, Ryan Cantor, Shaking the Southland, and Tiger Net. Those will be some good segments. We had a great conversation on Clemson. And earlier today, over the weekend, I knocked out so many record predictions, and most of those are posted on the team channels. And before we get to our first caller of the night, and please, I believe he has, thank you so much, before I even asked for it, left his name and ID there in the private chat so we can build a banner. We just want to recognize you and build a banner. Speaking of recognition, for anybody that's watching right now, we got about 45 on the line and millions more to come, of course. I have built a video of sorts to recognize our members on Patreon and Discord, and I keep forgetting to download it so that I can show it during the live stream here. So my apologies. That was built like 3 weeks ago. I thought, you know what? I want to recognize our Patreon members and Discord members. And I did that, but then, as what happens with a number of other things, I seem to have lists all over the place and things I want to accomplish, and life gets in the way. But Patreon members, we appreciate you. And please join the Discord. That is part of Patreon, not to confuse anyone. So when I say Discord, when I say Patreon, they go hand in hand. So what you do is you go to patreon.com. You see it there on the banner, patreon.com, search MarkRogersTV, sign up there. It's $5 a month. It's $5 a month, and it's worth it. You join the Discord. As soon as I get you the link, I get notified that John Doe just joined Patreon. I get you the link. That gets you into Discord for the rest of time. And you are good to go to talk college football 24/7, 365. And it's a good time. We've got a number of chats. We've got a chat room for each conference and a national chat. And again, as this blows up big, we will go to whatever. We will build more chat rooms. So if we need a chat room for Murray State, we'll build it. So please go to patreon.com, search MarkRogersTV, sign up there. You'll be all set. I'll get you the Discord link. And then for entertainment purposes only, my predictions on a week-to-week basis. I pick all the top 25 games plus more. So I usually pick about 20 to 25 games per week. Then we also have a list of media that you recognize from being on here all the time. Steve Day, Steve Hellwagon, Tony Gerdeman, Kevin Noon, The Wholesome One, Corey Bratta, and on and on and on and on. About 15 of those guys. And we have a little competition where we pick a 12-pack each week. I serve them up 12 games. Of course, in week 0, we're going to go with 3. Then it's going to be 12 games per week. Straight up and against the spread, and I can only brag for one more week, so I'm going to do it. I had the best record against the spread and straight up. Narrowly beat out Steve Days last year. Hopefully we can do that again. All right, we got a couple calls on the line. Let's get to them right now here at the Voice of College Football. Keep in mind that the set is it's on target. Sometimes we randomly have helmets up there, and that's a great thing, because we don't want to get bogged into, we want to show off all the helmets. We want to rotate the helmets so everybody sees the helmets, because we've got, I believe, 31 helmets, and like 21 of them came from you. So thank you so much for the helmet contribution. So we rotate the helmets on, I actually have a calendar where no, I'm just kidding. But we wanted to specifically show off, of course, Nebraska, Florida State, North Carolina. They're the 3 helmets that we have that represent the teams playing in week 0. All right, let's get to it right here at the Voice of College Football with our first caller of the night. We do have Aiden on the line from the capital city of the Buckeye State. Aiden, how you doing tonight?
Good. How about yourself, man?
I'm doing well. What's going on?
All right. So, in my opinion, I think that Clemson's really the hardest team to figure out. Because I think if they get their quarterback situation figured out with DJ or the freshmen they have coming in, I have no reason to think that Clemson's making the ACC. I have no reason to think that Clemson's going back to the conference championship, possibly make the playoffs. If they don't, I honestly see 3 losses on their schedule at least.
Okay, so if they get similar quarterback play to what they got, which was pretty awful, DJ Uiagalelei had 9 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. So in this day and age, that's awful. But there were other contributing factors. It wasn't just him. If you watched the games, I don't know what happened to the Clemson wide receivers that we've seen for the last 10 years. Sammy Watkins, DeAndre Hopkins, Martavis Bryant. We could go on and on and on. Justin Ross and those guys. I don't know what happened to them, because they weren't, obviously, those guys weren't there. They're playing in the NFL. But I mean, the production of Clemson wide receivers, we did not see that type of play out of Clemson wide receivers. And it wasn't based on quarterback play. they did not play well either. So there might have been a chemistry issue. There might have been a trust issue when one of them started to let down the other. And of course, the offensive line got obliterated against Georgia in week 1. And that may have caused a similar slide that, DJ gets beat up in week 1 and then he's a bit gun shy after that. I don't know, but they have to throw the ball better. They will throw the ball better. I will make this simple prediction. Clemson will throw the ball better this year than last year. They will have a higher completion percentage. They will throw for more yardage. They will throw for more touchdowns and have a better touchdown to interception rate this season than last season. I am going to guarantee that right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to
Can't be
guarantee
worse.
that thing too, just like with Ohio State's defense with Jim Knowles coming in. But my question is, how much better can the quarterback play get?
At Clemson.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right.
Because it's going to have to get a lot better for them to get out of the ACC.
I agree. Although they do have the best defensive front in the nation.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
There's probably a top 3 to 4 defense overall in the nation. And this leads me to a topic. I don't know if people would have interest in me producing a video where I predict statistics. So like you bring up DJ Uiagalelei and his awful stats last year. Okay, what is the projection for this year? Just a thought. What else is on your mind, Aiden?
Do you think Michigan's offense can be top 10 if J.J. McCarthy starts?
Top 10 in the country?
Yeah.
I think that Michigan's offense could be one of the 10 best offenses in the country. It's probably not going to be reflected statistically because they don't play that style of football, meaning the teams that are usually in the top 10 run a little bit more up-tempo and get more plays in, therefore more yardage and all that. But and Michigan's not always going to run up the score on anybody and everyone. So, but when it counts based on effectiveness, yeah, I think Michigan can have a top 10 offense in the country with J.J. McCarthy. Who's better? Well, Ohio State, Alabama, Oklahoma's in the same range. USC could have a better offense. It's tough to come up with too many teams. Maybe NC State. Miami's in the same range.
I honestly think if J.J. McCarthy starts, and he plays as good as I think he can, I don't see an issue for Michigan to have a top 10 offense, honestly, in the country.
Sure.
Because I think this is the best group of wide receivers that we've ever had collectively, or at least in my lifetime.
Yeah, maybe not at the top end, but if you take 4 or 5 of them, yeah.
I think Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards is the best tandem in the country.
Yeah, that's an argument.
And
there's an argument.
I think Michigan's also going to have the best offensive line in the country again.
Man, okay, wait a minute. Best wide receivers at Michigan ever, collectively.
Or at least
the best running back tandem in the country, the best offensive line in the country. I'm not necessarily pushing back on too much of that. I don't think Michigan's top end receivers are elite, but I do think that they are 4 or 5 deep at wide receiver.
Yeah. So, well, I'll say this is the deepest group of wide receivers we've ever had.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. But
I think if we can get a top 25 defense, we could probably go 11-1 if J.J. McCarthy starts.
Are you one of these Michigan fans that believes that they're going to automatically lose to Ohio State?
I am.
Really? Okay.
I just think even if Michigan is better, I've said this before, I think with Jim Knowles coming in, that Ohio State defense is going to be so much better than it was a year before. So in turn, Ohio State's just going to be, and I think CJ Stroud going in the year too. So I think Ohio State's just going to get so much better than they were a year before.
Okay.
And it's at home with the revenge factor.
Okay. I gotcha. I think revenge factors are overplayed, but there could be a factor there. Yeah. All right, Aiden, we've got the calls lining up here, so we better get to them. We appreciate you calling in.
Oh, no, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And again, everybody that calls in, please, when you join the backstage area there, please let us know. And I know that with some of you, it's pretty obvious based on your handle, and you've called a zillion times, like pretty much everybody that I'm looking at right now, except for maybe Dr. C. I recognize your handle and so forth and so on, so you're good to go. But we will take them one by one. So we appreciate Hunter being here to talk college football week 0.
How's it going, Mark?
I am doing just fine. How are you?
I'm good. First question for you is, what do you think is the most underrated week 0 matchup?
Underrated? I think it's hard to really underrate any of them. I just don't think we have much there.
Or what do you mean? Or let me put it this way. Maybe not talked about as much.
Who's talking about any of them except for maybe Nebraska and Northwestern? I don't know that anyone's talking about any week 0 matchups. You guys aren't. Not to me.
No.
Really
okay. Well, let's expand it to week 1.
Okay, week 1. Well, that's a whole different story. That's a whole different.
Because you got a good point. There's not a lot going on in week 0, but
okay. Yeah.
So let's go with week 1.
Week 0 exists because we're starved for college football and we'll watch anything. So, like, I'm going to be excited to watch Wyoming and Illinois. I'm going to watch that game in the middle of the afternoon. Would I watch that game 3 weeks later? No. I would watch it on a Wednesday night or something. But so yeah, let's look at the week 1. So what comes out is that it depends if you really want me to go under the radar, which I certainly can do, because I don't consider. Are we going to consider Utah and Florida under the radar?
I think that's a sneaky one of the best games we're going to see in week 1.
I really don't think it's sneaky, but with Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Georgia, Oregon getting most of the attention, it seems, I think people have caught up with Utah, Florida. I think that might turn out to be the best game of the weekend. But in terms of sneaky good matchups in week 1, hang on. North Carolina, Appalachian State. There's one for you. You want one?
Yeah, that could be a good game. I can see that being an interesting matchup there.
Well, here's a game that we haven't talked about much, except for we've had it on a little bit, but haven't really broken this one down. I've not produced a video on it, which I guess I should, because I'm going to love watching this game. Cincinnati and Arkansas.
That's going to be a really good game. I think that's going to be the first true test for Arkansas, and everybody's high on Arkansas. And I tend to agree. I think the Sam Pittman's done a very good job at developing a culture there, and everybody talks about Burks leaving for the NFL, but having Hazelwood there at is gonna. I think he'll fulfill that position. That maybe not be as productive as Burks was, but he's going to be a guy that can step in and provide some meaningful reps.
Here's a game for you. Late Saturday night. This could be a really good game. Boise State at Oregon State.
Yeah, that's not one that would have came to mind.
And then I also like, if you really want to go under the radar, Army and Coastal Carolina.
Yeah. Didn't the Coastal Carolina, weren't they ranked at one point last year?
Yeah, they finished 11-2. They were ranked at different times during the season. Yep.
Okay. So I want to move on to a little bit of a different topic here. Tell me if I'm crazy in this, and I might be a little bit. I have my Final Four at the end of the season as follows: Alabama number 1, Ohio State number 2,
You're crazy, Hunter. You're crazy. That'll never happen.
Utah number 3,
Okay.
and Michigan number 4. I think Ohio State beats Michigan in the regular season.
Yeah.
And then they go on to play for the championship, and Michigan beats Ohio State.
They're going to play in the national championship game. Ohio
No,
State.
they'll play in the playoff.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that would be something to see those two play. That would even trump Alabama Georgia, because Alabama Georgia was a great matchup from a NFL standpoint, talent standpoint, but it doesn't have the history. It's not a rivalry. But them both being in the same conference and the two best teams and all that as a rematch. But yeah, Ohio State, Michigan. Wow.
It might be a little ambitious, but I think there's a scenario where that can happen. And I think the Utah is better than a lot of people think. A lot of people don't think of Utah as being, elite, but I think they're really, really going to be really good this year.
Oh, well, they're ranked in the top, 10 in the country. So I don't think people think that they're that bad.
And USC right now, I don't think is going to be able to beat them right now. Maybe next year or the next year after that, they'll be a lot more competitive. But I think Utah just is too much for them, even though they got a lot of transfers in at USC. I mean, that takes a little while to merge all of that old culture to a new culture, and trying to get everybody to buy in on the transfer standpoint.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that most of the time. Sometimes you can have a coach come in and whip things into shape and make it happen, and especially against a pretty soft Pac-12 schedule.
Yeah, and it's going to be. I think this year, as far as the SEC goes, I think that this is going to be one of the years where a lot of things can happen that will make, especially in the East, that can make things a lot interesting. Because I don't necessarily think that Georgia is necessarily locked to win of the East. I mean,
You don't? Who do you like?
Call me crazy, but I like what Kentucky's been able to do. If the team is going to overcome that in the East, I think it'd be Kentucky. Look at what they got coming back.
I would go with Kentucky as the biggest contender in the East. If somebody said Georgia's not going to win it, who's going to win it? Kentucky does have Georgia at home, and their cross-division games, Kentucky, I know they've got Mississippi State. I forget what the other one is.
Let me put it to you this way. If everything that you can do right now, and let's say you woke up in a coma later on after the season, and somebody tells you that Kentucky in a close game beat Georgia, would you think that's just out of this world bonkers?
No, I would be a bit surprised. I still think Georgia So it's the age-old question with these elite programs when they lose this much NFL talent, will they just replace it? Because the guys that are going to replace the guys that are lost are just as talented. But that doesn't mean they're as good of football players or they're going to gel together. The previous team proved it on the field.
Who does Kentucky play before they play Georgia?
Okay. They've got, first of all, to answer my first question, their cross division, this is about as not easy, but as good as it would get. They play Mississippi State and Ole Miss in the West Division. So there's no Texas A&M, there's no Alabama, etc. So they play two of the lesser teams, even though they're still really good teams. Before the Georgia game, Vanderbilt.
Okay, so that gives them kind of a. I mean, you can about just put them up there with like playing a cupcake.
No, that's the best possible scenario for Kentucky, other than a bye week.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's basically, a playing a cupcake. Like something like Tulsa or something. But no, I just really like what. I mean, it's hard there at Kentucky to have that job and to have national expectations. But I think if there's a team that can beat them, I think it's Kentucky. And I mean, I've just seen them improve year over year over the last 3 seasons, to where I'm like, Kentucky's really got something going on here. That
they do. They've got something going on, but that something going on is more top 15 to 20 rather than top 2 or 3. So,
and I know,
and they lost quite a bit. So, all right, Hunter, we got the calls lined up here, so we'll be back plenty this week. So, give us a ring.
Will do. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate everybody being here at the Voice of College Football. We got Dr. C on the line, Arkansas USC fan. How could I possibly forget? Dr. C, how's it going?
How's it going, Mark? Are you able to hear me?
I've got you. How are you?
Perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on players this year. But before I start, I just saw the documentary, and I don't know if you've seen it, of Manti Te'o and the whole hoax that's on Netflix. Have you gotten a chance?
I have not. I can imagine it's fascinating, and I saw our buddy Brian Driscoll tweet about it to basically say it was a great documentary, and Manti Te'o went through a lot, and it's an interesting story. But no, I have not. Who's showing that?
It's doing really well on Netflix. It's number 2,
Okay.
but it's really sad in many ways because and I don't know how you feel about this, Mark, but it seems like he completely lost his confidence, not just as a player, but as a person. And I feel like that whole situation cost him his NFL career in many ways. He never recovered from being the laughingstock of the world in many ways.
Yeah,
he was the butt of every joke,
thing.
On late night.
Yeah, absolutely. He became a joke. I steered clear of it and didn't talk about it, but of course it was brought up all the time. And anybody who's been in the dating world, the online dating world, there are tons of frauds out there. Now, if you approach it in a reasonable fashion, but we're talking about somebody who's 20, 21 years old at the time. But if you approach it and you're a little street smart and wise, you obviously have some certain safeguards in line that, you need to meet the person at a certain point before you extend yourself and those sorts of things. Yeah, it was just, it was awful. And I'm sure I haven't seen and would gain a lot more appreciation for the situation had I seen it. But yeah, I got to think that, in a man's game, that he took quite an emotional hit for that.
Well, yeah, it hurt his leadership. It hurt the trust of his teammates with all the doubts. So I recommend anyone to watch it. It really clears up a lot of questions. of the whole situation. I just feel he was just a really naive, really good-natured person that got completely manipulated by someone who was incredibly obsessive and lonely. Um, Not there's a big shocker in there. The gentleman who ends up, well, I don't know if giving it much away, but the gentleman who was catfishing him has transitioned to a different gender. So the and in fact, there's a section where Dr. Phil said, "Hey, listen, I've sent your tapes to the FBI and some people of like the CIA, and they say this is not you, the ones that Manti put out." And the guy reproduced them right there. It's a really super bizarre story. That's one of the most bizarre college football stories ever, but it's worth a watch. So I highly
All
recommend
right,
it
I'll
for
have to
anyone
check
that's
that out.
yeah.
I
Sorry
didn't
to
really,
start off the conversation.
I didn't really know anything about it until just a couple days ago
Oh,
that it was
really?
out there.
Oh, it was just such a big story. I remember it, and just
Well, yeah, I
being
remember the
really
story. I'm
shocked.
not talking about the story. I'm talking
Yeah.
about the movie.
Oh, the
Yeah.
documentary? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I thought I knew it. I thought I knew it all, but until you watch it, you really get a feel for. And you know, um, yeah, poor guy. Well, I hope he's in a better place. It seems like it. But
Absolutely.
yeah. So sorry I sidetracked, but my question was, who are three college football players this year that are must watch for every college football fan? For three that you've got to watch, and here's the other thing: three college football players that you have to watch, but play in programs that most people won't see. So, like, if there's a
Yeah.
spectacular wide receiver at the University of Buffalo, who are those diamonds in the rough?
Oh boy. Well, we'll answer the first question. And then, as you know, I love Group of Five football. Don't watch a whole lot of it, unfortunately, because I'm watching all the big teams play on every Saturday. So, don't know if I can answer the second one if you want me to delve into the Group of Five. Uh, I don't want to be obvious here because the first guy that came to mind was Will Anderson. Okay, Will Anderson's going to be watched a zillion times, and yeah, just I think he's the best player in the sport. I'm curious to see this speedster, Tyler Harrell. Is that his first name? Justin Harrell from Louisville,
Hmm.
who transferred to Alabama. He's immediately one of the best, one of the fastest players on the team. To see how they work him into the offense. I know he got hurt, but not seriously during fall camp. To see if he has a similar to Jameson Williams kind of transition to Alabama and impact. He comes to mind. Well, I think Braylon Allen, if you love brute force and you love tackle to tackle football, between the tackles running the ball for Wisconsin is a must watch if you want to see that. Um, if you're looking to see what one of the keys to the season is going to be, then you watch DJ Uiagalelei at Clemson, of course. He's going to, if we saw his stat sheet right now, we could probably predict whether Clemson's going to be in the playoff or not. I really like to watch Brennan Armstrong play football at Virginia. The lefty who can run. He could have been a pretty high pick in the NFL draft, but he believes in his receivers, and they got a really good receiving / tight end core at Virginia. Dontavian Wicks and company, and Brennan Armstrong is an NFL prospect who wanted to play another year of college football. So I always enjoy that angle on it. The Purdue passing game as a collection, I enjoy watching, and I know that they lost Winston Wright and David Bell. They lost their two best receivers, and they lost their starting tight end to an injury in August camp. But I expect with Aiden O'Connell at the controls, the Purdue's still going to be fun to watch, throwing the ball all over the place. Yeah, those are the guys that and the groups of players together that I'm interested to see. And of course, maybe the biggest wild card in all this is Quinn Ewers at Texas, just to see if he's going to splash like Trevor Lawrence or he's going to struggle. But man, there's this huge spotlight on him, of course, at Texas, and we're going to see him in week 2 against Alabama. So that's going to be fascinating because here's a guy that's hyped as the number 1 player in the country, but we've not seen him throw one pass. And in week 2, he's going to be playing what I think is going to be the best defense in the country. All right, Dr. C, appreciate you being here, the voice of college football. We want to get to these calls because I don't like people getting frustrated waiting. So we'll keep it moving along. But thanks, and call back later this week.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Oh, thought you were done. Didn't mean to cut you off. Let's keep it moving. DeAndre's here. DeAndre, how you doing? We'll take out the screen. You're like in a cave somewhere. So just so we can hear you.
Okay. I'm not
How you
going
doing?
to. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I ain't gonna keep you long. But I heard the last gentleman talk about documentaries. So I know you probably haven't had a chance to see it yet. But it's a 1981 Clemson documentary. We Are Number One.
Heard about it. Yeah.
Huh?
I've heard about it, and it's been on the ACC network, and I've actually seen bits and pieces. I haven't watched it start to finish.
But what interesting thing I found that kind of disagree with, they said Clemson at number 2 played USC, who was number 8, and that was the first time the ACC had a top 10 matchup. But the other reason why I said I disagree with what they said, and I know I don't got the research they have, but Carolina and Duke seemed like they were pretty highly ranked in the 40s before basketball legitimately took over. And I don't know if I'm right or not, but that's one thing I found interesting about the comments in the story. That Clemson was 2, USC, that was the biggest first top 10 ACC matchup. So I found that to be interesting. I said Carolina and Duke in the 40 might have been one.
I do remember that game.
Yeah. So.
Hey.
Oh yeah. Also, we talked about this before. Charlie Pale and Clemson.
Yes.
Charlie Pale said that he left Clemson to go to Florida because he didn't feel that he couldn't win a national championship at Clemson. Well, like before that, Florida never won a national championship, right?
No.
I mean, Florida first when they won, I know 84 we always talk about, but I thought Charlie Pale might have left Clemson because he was about to get caught up in the recruitment scandals that he had going on with all the talent that he was bringing in. That's why I thought that he left. But they went the other way with it. Like he left because he wanted to go to Florida to win one. But I just thought that was interesting because we talked about that before in the past. Last one I'm going to talk about. So I hear a lot of people say Clemson's done, da. I just really can't understand why people keep saying that. They lost to the national championship. Take away Alabama. Who else challenged Georgia throughout the year? I mean, I don't think Georgia had a close game outside of Clemson.
No.
Am I wrong? So, I mean, and that was Chase Daniels lost his starting job because he was hurt, correct? It wasn't because Bennett played better than him, but he lost because he was hurt. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I don't get why people keep saying that. The NC State needed a miracle to beat Clemson. And I just think having Spector and more slot-type receivers to help Clemson, the interception that DJ threw against Georgia that led to the only touchdown of the game, Ross just came back off an injury, and he was an outside receiver. He just got moved to that position. And Dabo even said that he ran the wrong route. So, not taking up for DJ. He played terrible throughout the year. But let's just be honest. I mean, you talking about 1 or 2 plays away from having a different season. And just like Ohio State a couple years ago, where they had those good defensive backs, and they got beat by Clemson, but a few plays turned the game around. Dobbs holds on to the ball, they turned the game around. You can say that about any game. There's about 1 or 2 plays that are game changers, and I just think that people say Clemson is dead. And I done told you, like, they lost Musaliki, Dixon, their top 2 running backs at the beginning of the year. They're transferred. So I just
people are offensive minded. If
right.
Clemson had lost the game to Georgia 45-38, they would have been getting pats on the back the way Georgia played and crushed everybody else the rest of the season. Clemson would have been given credit for that game.
Right.
But because it was 10-3, it's like, what's wrong with the offense? The offense is horrible. What's going on? Well, yes, that's true. But in terms of how well they played against the eventual national champion, it's the same gap.
Right.
It's the same difference.
Right. So, but like I said, I'm not gonna hold you up tonight. I think that moving Allen in, I don't know where Christian Lay is. I wish as a Crescent you would talk to Jason about one day, because he was the number 1 left tackle coming out of high school last year, and we haven't heard anything about him or seen him play last year or this year. And they're gonna move out parts inside. Everybody's been talking about that, and start another guy at right tackle. I mean, I think that's gonna be a good improvement because you get your best 5 out there. And I heard what Jason said because I watched the video, and I've been saying it all year. I always thought McFadden should have moved to the side and Lay to start at left tackle. But I remember last time me, you, and Jason and Pete was on together, and Jason said Lay's not ready. So I really like to see what's going on with, has he heard anything with his progress, because I think that would help. But I think Clemson, especially if they slot receivers stay healthy, I think you'll see a totally different team. And I think DJ is not getting enough credit.
Tristan Lee, I believe is how you pronounce the young man's name. Just
I apologize.
You know there.
All right, Mark.
DeAndre, we always appreciate it.
You have a good night.
Thanks for being here. All right. We will get to the next call as soon as we pick up a couple super chats. And I wanted to also mention, as we were having that conversation, and I was asked by Dr. C, players that I want to watch this season that people need to watch. Yes, Deuce Vaughn. I've talked about Deuce Vaughn a million times. I just did an Oklahoma show the other day where I brought up Deuce Vaughn and how amazing he is. The one thing about Deuce Vaughn, though, he needs space. He's a little guy. He's exciting, electric, but he's not going to force the line. And if there's bad, like Bijan Robinson at Texas, bad offensive line play during his career there, but he can still make things because he's just an NFL body. But Deuce Vaughn is definitely going to play in the NFL, but more Dexter McCluster kind of look to his frame, and he needs space. He had 2 or 3, despite rushing for 1,500 yards, 3 really marginal games because no blocking against really good defenses, and couldn't make anything up himself, like 30, 35-yard games against the Baylors and Oklahoma States of the world. All right, let's get to our next call here, the Voice of College Football. But first, Falconer Jones, thank you so much. Super chat contribution that was posted on the screen earlier. And I want to get to super chat coming in from Go Irish. Can Notre Dame beat the Ohio State University? Absolutely, they can. Check out my video on that. You know what Notre Dame's going to do in this game? I don't know if they're going to be successful. Well, actually, I do know that to a degree. I believe, I don't know. We got to watch the game. I believe to a degree that Notre Dame's going to be successful on both lines of scrimmage. They are just too strong. They've got too good of an offensive line, too good of a defensive front. They're going to have success up there, but they need to have overwhelming success because Ohio State has so many weapons and is so talented on the perimeter. Notre Dame needs to dominate on both sides of the line. But can they win that game? Absolutely, they can win that game. All right. We got Michael on the line talking up the Boilers probably, I'm guessing. Michael, how you doing tonight? Hello, Michael. Going once, going twice. Michael, are you with us?
Sorry, Mark, I hit the mute button.
Oh, it's quite all right.
That. How is people thinking that both Michigan and Ohio State can get into the CFP? cannot happen.
It cannot happen.
Because when they play each other, it's basically an elimination game.
Why?
Because the loser isn't going to be able to play for the Big Ten championship. And say, like, for example, maybe Purdue or maybe Wisconsin plays them in the Big Ten championship and shocks the world, beats them. How can both of them still get in?
Well, first of all, you can't bring up scenarios that will obviously knock them out. So it starts with that. You have to have the Big Ten Eastern champion win the Big Ten championship game for one of them to get in, and then for the other to follow suit. So that would be one thing is let's play out one scenario. If Michigan is undefeated and Ohio State's undefeated, and let's say Alabama loses one game, knocks them down to 3 or 4 in the country, and Ohio State is the consensus number 1 team in the country, 11-0, and they beat Michigan. Michigan's one loss.
Yes.
It's at Ohio State, the number 1 team in the country. And they lost 41-38 in a thriller. They're not falling in the rankings. They're actually going to get credit for that.
Okay. But here's the flip side, though. Say, like, the following week in the Big Ten championship, Ohio State loses.
Well, yes. Michael, if you're serving up a scenario and say, Mark, can both Ohio State and Michigan make the playoff? And I say yes. And then you say, well, they're both going to go 9-3. How are they going to make the playoff? Well, then they're not going to make the playoff.
No, I'm just saying if you've been reading,
you follow my reasoning here. It's not a huge leap.
If you're reading,
can USC make the playoff? No, they're not going to make the playoff if they go 8-4. No, I can give them a reasonable path to the playoff, but it's not going 8-4.
But okay, now let me say this: say like the Big Ten West winner smacks Ohio State, and they're 12-1. Who's going to be the team out? Because if you've been reading the chat, people have been saying that Michigan and Ohio State can. Even Steve Day said this. I still don't think it's happened, and the only reason why.
Michael, there's a difference between you laying out a scenario for me and saying, under this scenario, who's going to get selected, versus saying, I don't think Ohio State and Michigan can both get selected to the playoffs. How can you tell me that they can? I can tell you easily how they can. I can give you 8 different scenarios that would send Ohio State and Michigan to the playoff. I'm not saying they're likely.
Yeah, true. But the thing I'm trying to say, I'm saying basically what I'm trying to say is an elimination game.
It's not an elimination game unless it. So, Michael, you have to also understand, anytime you bring up playoff scenarios to me, and you do this all the time, that's great. That's why I'm here. You can't do it in a vacuum. There's not one conference. If every conference got one team in or 2 teams and it was the champion and some kind of wild card system in a 12-team playoff or a 16-team playoff, then we could lay it out. But we need the entire picture. If Baylor wins the Big 12 and they're 12-2, 11-2, and USC wins the Pac-12 and they're 11-2, and Clemson wins the ACC and they're 11-2, and it's easy to lay out a scenario in which Ohio State and Michigan would both make the playoff.
Yeah, but my thing is, though, I mean, just like the Penn State, well, I think they finished 11-2 when they won the Big Ten championship.
Yes.
But didn't Ohio State still make it, and Penn State didn't make it?
Yes.
And that's only because that was a 2-lot Penn State team.
Yes.
But I guess what I'm saying is, how is it 2
Penn
teams
State lost to Michigan by 5 touchdowns that year. They lost 42-10. They lost to Pitt, who was a 7-5 team.
Okay.
So they had 2 bad-looking losses.
Okay. I knew they got talked about Michigan, but I didn't know who their other losses were. But what I'm saying is, how is it that if you have a team from the 2 teams making the same division and stuff like that, that's just like, what was it? Well, shoot, no. I'm trying to think. There was a scenario to where when they're in the SEC, and Alabama still made the playoffs, and they didn't even play for the
Yeah.
SEC championship.
2017. Alabama went 11-1. They lost to Auburn in the Iron Bowl. That kept them out of the SEC championship game. They still made the playoff.
Okay.
Ohio State in 2016 went 11-1. Did not play in the Big Ten championship game. Made the playoff.
But my thing is, I'm trying to figure out how is it that they can still have two from them, and the other one.
Because the playoff committee determines who the 4 best teams in the country are. And if they determine Ohio State and Michigan are 2 of the 4 best teams, they're going to put them in the playoff.
Okay.
Is it likely? No, it's not likely. But is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible. Ohio State's going to be close to a double-digit favorite in every game up until the Michigan game. Shoot, they're a 15-point favorite against the number 5 team in the country. So if Ohio State plays up to expectations, they're going to Indianapolis and playing. They're going to be undefeated or maybe stumble once or whatever. Anyway, it's all about, is Michigan going to be undefeated? If you're taking the pro-Ohio State stance, you can do it the other way. You can flip-flop it. But if Michigan goes undefeated until they go to Columbus and they play the number 1 team in the country, razor close, depending on if all the other conference champions are undefeated, no, Michigan will not make the playoffs. But if these conference championship teams are 11-2, Michigan is going to be in the playoff under that scenario.
Yeah, that I can see. But I guess my point I was trying to make is if they're all like all 11-1 or 12-1. That's what the point I was trying to make. How are they going to figure out how they going to be able to make it if the other conference champion teams was 12-1? That's what I was trying to figure out. How is it?
They probably won't. But that will be a decision for the committee to make. Comparing a 12-1 Baylor team to a Michigan team that didn't play anyone really non-conference, but then played a Big Ten, that's when the likes of Penn State will matter and Iowa will matter to Michigan's resume.
And another thing too, have you figured out what game are you going to be streaming on YouTube or on Patreon this weekend? And for the Purdue Penn State game, are you going to be?
Which game am I going to stream? I'm going to be here live after the Nebraska game.
Okay,
we'll be here doing Nebraska post game live.
All right, because I know that you live streamed some last year and stuff. I didn't know if you could do that.
Yeah, we did a few watch parties. Yes, we did.
That's what I'm trying.
All right, Michael.
All right,
thanks
Mark,
for being here.
See you. Bye.
All right, let's keep it moving. We got One Scoop John's here.
Hey, Mark.
You can't make the playoff.
I wasn't calling in to talk about that, but now I have to address it, I feel like. So basically, that's like saying, this is a little bit morbid, but it's from a while ago, so I think it'll be okay. So the Titanic, saying that the Titanic could never sink because of the days beforehand that it didn't, right? They even said it was an unsinkable ship at the time, okay? But when you say something is impossible, when you give a negative, it only takes one positive example to disprove it, right? So I'm pretty sure he said it is impossible for Michigan to get into the playoff with Ohio State, right? So
yeah, it just again, it's a matter of reason and logic. It even goes beyond a football discussion when you basically lay out a scenario where it's obvious that the teams involved or one of them will not make the playoff, and then ask me how they're going to make the playoff under that scenario. Well, they won't.
Right. And you know, in all fairness, we would need some. So I think we're probably gonna. I am a little more optimistic than you're 10-2. I think we're gonna go 11-1. But you know, I'm a Michigan fan, right? But I think that the loss is going to be like a 3-point Buckeyes loss, right? And in which is the exact thing you brought up, right? What happens if it's an 11-1 with a 3-point loss to a number 1 or number 2 Ohio State team? Then there's a chance, unless there isn't, right? Unless Clemson goes 12-1, Bama goes 12-1, right? Georgia goes 11-1. and maybe that one's really close. Maybe then there's, maybe Notre Dame goes undefeated. I don't know, right? There's some scenarios where Michigan in this case would not get in. But then there's also scenarios where we do. And that's, I think, the bottom line here. And I think that's what Steve said too. When he was
we
giving
can run through the playoff scenarios from the first 8 years and take teams that missed in some years that would have made it in other years, because the dynamics of the comparisons are different every year.
Exactly. So I'm not asking you to be an expert on the AP, but or the media, but I know that you know some things. So I'm trying to think through the AP poll and also the All-American. As a Michigan fan, I'm trying to think through these things, right? I saw a coach's poll I think it was 6. That made sense to me. 8, I'm starting to feel a little disrespected. I think the players might. And so Des asked, I think it was Des on the show asked, is 8 too low? And my answer to that is, I think 8 is too low and also perfect, because I think it's a little low based on the fact that we were in the playoffs, Big Ten championship, a lot of players coming back. Yes, Hutch and Ojabo dropping out. Yes, some other people dropping out, but a lot of people are coming back. 6 feels right. When we get to 8, I think that's when you start thinking, and there was some joker who didn't even put them in. We didn't even get in their top 25. I think it was somebody on Fox. Didn't even get in. So this is bulletin board material. And I'm wondering, like, who participates in this? Are we thinking like the Joel Klatz of the world and the people like that? I mean, I know the coaches poll, it's the coaches and like their executive assistants or whoever they designate to do it. But what about the AP? And I'm just trying to get any sense of what happened there.
So I use this example all the time in various forms. So when I was involved in covering college football, obviously I cover it now, but in a different way, going to the games, going to the locker rooms, going to the news conferences, all that business, talking to the players and coaches every week. What I found funny was, number one, that I was covering college football like a madman. I'm covering college football, and because I'm a nerd junkie, even though I got to be locked on Alabama, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State, because that was my beat, that was our coverage territory as a TV station. I'm DVRing everything I'm missing on Saturdays, and I'm watching everything. So, and being a Big Ten, Ohio State oriented guy in my youth, I just refused to give that up. And this is no knock on these individuals, but I constantly was running into writers from the Jackson, Mississippi newspaper and the Tupelo, Mississippi newspaper and Tuscaloosa news.
They might favor some people a little.
These guys were, and it wasn't their fault. They were beat writers that had to just, Ole Miss was everything, because they had to know about every little injury, and every little nuance, and every little recruiting target. Yeah. And that's how it is. And I brought up this example just in terms of, just think about this. I, working for a TV station, if I would go to the Alabama LSU game in Tuscaloosa, and it was Central Time, 2:30 kickoff, those 3:30 CBS games, 2:30 kickoff locally. I'd want to get there. We'd have to get there at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Therefore, it's like an hour fight through traffic, all this stuff. So you're getting your stuff together at 9 o'clock in the morning at a TV station. So basically what I'm saying is, you're missing all the noon games. You don't watch college football at noon, and you are at this LSU Alabama game at 2:30. You're watching a 3.5 hour game till 6 o'clock. You're staying around. You're in the locker room getting interviews. You're going to the coaches' news conferences. Then you're rushing back to the station, and all you're locked in on are editing, and through the 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock news, you've lived your entire day, Alabama, LSU. That's all you know.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be an expert on ranking teams in college football?
And someone clearly is for Kansas State, because probably in that exact scenario you pictured, because somehow Kansas State got two players in, right? We got one, right? And I'm not saying Kansas State is the worst team in the world, but they didn't get to the playoffs. right? And I think that having that and looking at like I'm not going to go to the coin flip people, but I'm going to go to the ones who won like the Joe Moore Award, right? 3 Joe Moore winners coming back. I'm just thinking of the ones that make a lot of sense, right? Even the Jake Moody got it. Well, we also have a great punter that Robbins that I think is equally as good, right? And it's great that they're both coming back. So I'm just thinking of those types of things. So maybe now that makes a little more sense. Maybe fewer Michigan people on the beat are contributing to this or around there. Maybe more Kansas State, maybe more Iowa area. I don't know.
Well, I'll say this, John, just to play devil's advocate. It is
Sure.
possible to have the best offensive line in the country and not have any one of the best offensive linemen at their particular position. So that is possible.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say in this, and this goes against, maybe I'm blowing my cover here for those people who think they know everything. This is similar to watching the NFL draft. I watch the NFL draft and I think, at what point is a player going to be drafted that I don't know? When's that going to be? Is that going to be the 52nd pick or the 3, whatever? And I'm looking at the all American defense, and I'm seeing it punter, the Rutgers punter. Now, this guy must be really good for him to gain attention at Rutgers.
Well, you probably have a lot of experience punting at Rutgers.
But I don't know who Adam Horsack is. I do now, but I didn't know the Rutgers punter, so
right.
I don't know the All-American punter, so I'm a bit embarrassed by that, but I know everybody else. So that's all I'd say there. So you feel disrespected as a Michigan fan at number 8. Understand, and because
slightly.
Yeah,
I think that the guy who put us out of the top 25 a little more.
Well, that's now. I reserve the right and judgment, and I say this about rankings, that until they play on the field, I don't have an issue with people that rank. They can rank whatever they want. Somebody wants
RJ Young, that's who.
Syracuse number 1, Kansas number 2, Rutgers number 3. They can do it.
Yeah.
And people would go nuts, of course, and I get that response, but I think I reserve the right for them to do that. But if you're thinking logically based on what's the logical approach to ranking teams preseason, it's to take last year's results and then say, who have they lost? Who have they gained? And what's the result of this?
Right.
And transition it. Well, Michigan was the 3rd best team in the country last year. So it's difficult to see them being the 30th best team in the country this year.
Yeah. Well, I know that you have some all-star callers in the queue here.
We do.
So I'm just gonna wrap them up. I'm gonna wrap this up by just saying I use this as bulletin board material. I contributed to the new NIL thing that they just launched tonight, the Ann Arbor NIL Club. I think the players are going to view this as bulletin board material, and that can only help us because that's what happened in the run up to 2021. We were unranked. Nobody thought we were going to do anything. Even Michigan fans like myself, I thought we were going to go 8-4, 7-5. So here we go again. So let's make it happen. But as always, appreciate you, Mark.
One Scoop John, good time to have you here. We're going to let people know that we've got Discord available.
Yes.
Go to Patreon, MarkRogersTV. You search it right there and you get the link and you can join the conversation in Discord, and we will have our predictions on week 0.
$5, people. $5.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you being here. All right, let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. But I will remind everyone, Discord, $5 a month, and go to Patreon, search Mark Rogers TV. And I just can't imagine, like, this has gotten to a point, and just think of it this way: you start a Discord, so it's a chat room for those that aren't knowledgeable on that. It's a chat room, so like for the first 4 people that are in there, it's kind of boring. Like, okay, who do we talk to? If I'm a Notre Dame fan, there's no one other Notre Dame fans. But these guys made it work. They made it happen when there were like 5 of them in there. Then there were 10, then there were 15, then there were 20, and we got like 68 people in there now. So we can keep it humming. And then the conversation becomes even more fervent, more interesting, because then you find whatever conversations that you want to have, because the more people are in there, then the more diverse the conversations, or more specific the conversations to your team or your interest. All right, we got Sean on the line. Welcome into the Voice of College Football.
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
I am doing great. How are you?
It's good. It's good. I feel like I see an oasis here.
Yes.
We're wandering through this miserable desert of the off season, and I found one of the most miserable and frustrating off seasons I can remember. And finally, we have some actual games on the horizon to look forward to.
Frustrating in what way?
I mean, frustrating in just that there's just incredible volatility. You see the sport that you loved growing up just
That's where I thought
changing.
you were headed. Yep.
Just changing at such a breakneck pace here. And I mean, change. I like change. I'm not a reactionary or anything, but sometimes, you see forces taking hold of something you love, and you don't necessarily know if everyone has the best broad-minded interest for the entire sport, for the entire game in mind. And, but I didn't call to talk about all of that. I came to actually discuss. I think this is one of the more unusual off seasons. Going into this, have you ever had a season where there's like three teams this clearly? I mean, just almost uncontroversially, unambiguously at the top. Three of them.
For me to necessarily remember how teams were perceived going into it.
Yeah.
But at the conclusion of 2019, we had LSU, Clemson, Ohio State. Now, because of the way it worked out, I think everyone would agree LSU was the best team, although Ohio State did not get its shot.
They did.
They were all 13-0 going into the playoff.
Right. And so, that's really unusual to have three undefeated champions from major conferences.
Sure.
And at least for this year, for those top three teams, I look through their regular season schedule, and unless you really count Michigan as a real threat to Ohio State, I don't see
count them.
Oh well, yes. I'm sure they're taking the game very seriously. I'm not 100% sold that they have more than like a 15% chance to win that game in Columbus. That's my personal feeling about it. But I look through this, and it's like every single one of them, any of the games that they could possibly lose before the SEC championship game would be a massive upset. I mean, it would be just seismic. I think they should all be favored by somewhere in the neighborhood of 15, 16, minus 15 or 16 in every game.
You're talking about Ohio State.
Yes. And the Notre Dame, I personally think Notre Dame's overrated going into that game. But I think this. If I look at Alabama and Georgia, their schedules up until they meet each other, it seems like inevitably meet each other in the finals championship game. If you tell me right now either one of them loses before then, I'm shocked. And that's unusual because no matter how good a team is, it's really difficult to go 12-0. And normally I would say you give me any team in any given year, I'm not going to predict them to go 12-0 very often but with those three teams and their schedules right now, this is as big of a gap as I've ever seen.
And you're right in line with most of College Football Nation. And I stated that maybe a half hour ago that it seems like there's those three teams, And then there's about half the people that believe Clemson can fix their issues, join them. And then other than that, it's this Michigan, Notre Dame, Utah level, but they're not with those three.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm the most sure about Alabama and Georgia, not necessarily Ohio State.
And that makes perfect sense. I mean, Ohio State's got the most like glaring flaws, and the most easily identifiable issues. But I also think they also play in the Big Ten and not the SEC as well. You know, they don't go up against as high a quality competition on a week-to-week basis. So, I mean, it's and I mean where Ohio State is strong. I mean, I think their offense this year, this might end up being about the best unit on either side of the ball I've seen in a very long time. About as good as Georgia's defense probably was last year. I mean, I think Marvin Harrison Jr., everything I hear, he's an absolute star. I saw from what I saw of Ibuka last year in his limited action. I can't imagine. Just imagine you're a defensive coordinator. Okay, we've got to find a safety or a third corner to cover Emeka Ibuka this year. I mean, like that's just a nightmare. Plus, you know, one of the top 5 O-lines in the country, and my opinion, a top 2 or 3 running back in the country.
Yep.
Along with, you know, possibly the best play caller in college football. It is just, I mean, yeah. And like I said, the one team that I think can jump up and join that elite core is Clemson. And Clemson, I also look through their schedule, you know, aside from maybe that trip to South Bend, I mean, is there any game that they're not a massive favorite in themselves? And that, so
NC State.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a pretty massive favorite. I think they should be favored. I mean, I think that should not be. I think that game's in Clemson too, right?
Yes, it is. They've got NC State at home. They've got Miami at home.
Yeah. So
well, Sean, we appreciate you being here. There's a growing line of callers. So what we're going to do, and I appreciate you calling and call back anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great one.
This is what we're going to do. You guys tell me if this is a good idea. Let's go 2 at a time, and hopefully we can get some synergy. We'll bring in DeReal MVP and Will at the same time. How you guys doing?
Hello. How are you doing, Mark?
Doing well. How you boys doing?
I'm doing good.
Doing good. Let's figure out our configuration here. Anyway, so DeReal MVP, you were next. What do you got going on?
Well, I mean, I appreciated that one caller from Alabama saying Kentucky's going to beat Georgia. Or I saw Chris Adoring, I think's his name, from the SEC Network's got Kentucky going 11-1. There's an unprecedented amount of hype for Kentucky. Can we do it? Can we win the East?
I mean, I think you have as good as a chance as anyone else in the East, besides Georgia, to win the East.
I think out of all the teams, or if you said Alabama and Georgia, who was the next team in line to make the SEC title game? I think it'd be Kentucky. Now, does that mean the most talented team?
Or the West?
Well, the West teams, they play a more brutal schedule, so they're just going to more likely beat up on one another. There's not a clear tier difference between them. So that's why Arkansas, Texas A&M, I think they just beat each other up. Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Mississippi State's going to beat somebody. They will beat a top team. I don't know which one, but I think they'll beat one of them.
I agree.
Will, let me ask you this. Notre Dame, Ohio State, obviously 12, 13 days away. Well, I mean, what's it like kind of just being disrespected by everybody, thinking you got no chance?
I mean, I get where they're coming from because we haven't won a big game since 2012. We have not won a big game since. I mean, 2017 USC was good, but I mean, I get where they're coming from. I just think that one thing that really irked me was Paul Feinbaum. Like, I've never been a big Paul Feinbaum fan, but when he said that he was shocked that Notre Dame was ranked in the top 10. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Are you just trying to rile people up? Like he does this every year with Notre Dame, but like we've been ranked higher than we were at the start of the AP poll 4 out of the last 5 years. And I'm like, is he just disrespecting us to get clicks on his show? I don't understand.
Well, I think there's an issue sometimes when people, media types, are locked in on a particular team or conference, and then they become super, super big. So then they believe that they can comment on anything, and they really have no knowledge of what else is going on, in this case, college football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I feel like with Marcus Freeman gives us the biggest chance out of any coach that we've had was just with the recruiting to break through. Like, and I feel like other teams can do that too. I feel like Oregon with their NIL with Phil Knight's money, I feel like they can break through. I feel like Texas A&M with their recruiting, they can break through. Like I don't know. Like if I was like I'm not trying to rip Sean, but like that's not how, like college football is not like that. Like Georgia was where Notre Dame, Georgia, Oregon, Miami, and Texas A&M were a few years ago, and now they won a national championship. Like, it's not just 3 teams. Other teams can win it. Other teams can break through. Like, Michigan can break through and win a playoff game soon as well. I mean,
well, I've got to disagree with you there. I don't see a path for a team not named Alabama, Ohio State, or Georgia to win it. No path. Like, the gap is just too big. I mean, they're just too talented. They could have a bad – listen, Georgia showed you the domination against Michigan, and that was one of the best Michigan teams they've had in a long time. They lost 2 of their best players. I know that doesn't matter to some, but that does matter. I just don't see them being competitive. I think they're going 9-3 personally. I think there will be a drop-off. Baylor, Oklahoma State. Texas I just see them being bumper cars in the Big 12. Texas A&M has a coach that loses 4 games every year outside of 2020. So I just don't see it. Ohio State, if they have a top 50 offense or defense, top 50 defense with the offense they're projected to have, it's going to be hard for even Alabama to beat them. We saw in 2019 how much a great all-time offense matters. Would you agree with that?
Dave Aranda defense helped them out too. And I'm not saying that Jim Knowles is bad. I don't know how much – like if they are just as good as they were last year, I feel like our defense is similar to Michigan's, and I feel like our offense might be a bit better than Michigan's last year. So I feel like we have a chance.
Well, we'll know at the end of the week.
But I think we'll cover the 16-point spread.
I think you too will. I think you will too. I've got Ohio State winning 31-21. I think Notre Dame is going to do the Kansas approach, what they did against Oklahoma. They're going to slow the game down. They're going to eat time off the clock. They're going to run the ball. And it'll be close entering that fourth quarter. It'll be about a 3-7 point game, and I think Ohio State fans are going to be worried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel
you looking forward to people saying, well, Marcus Freeman, he's now 0-2. He's at Notre Dame. You know, he's just got to go. He's 0-2. He's got to go. You looking forward to that talk?
Yeah, it'll be funny. I feel like I don't know if we have a better chance of beating Clemson, but if it's at home and we win that game, I think that'll shut a lot of people up. And also, even if we lose that game, I feel like I'm not trying to rip SC, but I feel like we could just dominate them at the line and win that game pretty convincingly. And then if we win a New Year's Six Bowl coupled with the 10-2 season, I feel like that'll also fight a lot of things down because it was just so frustrating losing. That Oklahoma State game was so frustrating. And I feel like if we win that if we just win a New Year's Six Bowl or beat Clemson or Ohio State, I feel like they'll get the recruiting up to the level that it was from the level it was this year. And then I feel like we can compete with anyone if we actually get the good recruits in.
Well, I think it comes down to is how good DJ Ungalele plays. If he's struggling against Georgia Tech in week 1, then you all have a great chance. If they're on fire, they're score 45 against Georgia Tech like they're supposed to, but they didn't last year, then you got no shot.
Georgia Tech is terrible, though. I feel like
Yeah,
even if
but
DJ's
Clemson only scored 14 points.
yeah.
It was 14-8. DeAndre, he asked why people down in Clemson. Well, you're having scraping by against Georgia Tech and Louisville and teams
Boston
like that.
College and Syracuse. They beat Syracuse by 3 points. Beat Syracuse 17-14. They beat Boston College like the same, like 21-17. Yeah, they
in the start,
scored
the
three
thing about the
touchdowns.
Syracuse game is the best player in that game was Sean Tucker. Hands down, the best player in that game was Syracuse's running back.
Yep.
And it wasn't really close. And that shouldn't be the case with Clemson.
All right, guys. Appreciate you both being here. We got a long line going.
Mark,
any parting shots for either one of you?
I'll say this, Mark. At the top 25 that makes sense, if Vanderbilt starts the season 2-0, they better be ranked.
Well,
rank
it's going
them.
to be Hawaii, and it's going to be who's week 2?
Elon. Rank them. They'll be 2-0 in week 1. Rank them.
Don't know that that's going to do it, Darrell. I'm sorry. I would love to do it. I'd love to pull the trigger, but
unrank Kentucky and rank Vanderbilt. Rank
maybe
them.
if Hawaii turns around after that loss to Vandy and beats somebody decent, I'll have to look at Hawaii.
They play Michigan, right?
Oh, is that week 2? Is the Hawaii? Yeah. If Hawaii turns around and beats Michigan, then that Vandy win's going to look phenomenal. That would do it.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to crafting that first top 25 that actually makes sense. Because a lot of people haven't seen it. It's going to blow their minds, and I'm going to get bashed as I typically do. But guys, we got quite a long line here. So
can you rank the conferences during non-conference schedule? Can you rank the conferences on how they're doing?
Yes, we'll do that. Absolutely. Love doing that too.
Right.
All right, guys. Appreciate you being
Mark.
here.
Thanks for everything.
All right, let's keep it moving. I guess we'll go 2 by 2, and hopefully we got some synergy between the two, or you can just ask your individual questions, but may move it along a little bit better here. But man, I can tell people are geeked up for college football. We put on this, boom, it's ground zero, week 0 time, and suddenly there's all sorts of folks here ready to talk. Shoelace Sooner, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Appreciate that so much. Good evening, Mark. Hello, football fam. Erica, thank you. Hawkeye fan Erica joining us on the Iowa Show all the time. Thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Erica, please gently hit the like button, everyone. Thanks for the reminder there. We got Mike 3883 on the line. We got George, who's now running away from the camera. Mike, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
I got you.
Awesome. Do you say I'm with George right now?
Mike and George.
Oh my.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, George. How's it
when
going?
I found out I was going on camera, I ran to the refrigerator. All right.
Oh, this will be a good one.
I'm ready.
Well, Mike, you were first up, so we'll give you the first shot at asking questions or making your comments.
All right. I had a question a long time ago about the Rose Bowl history, the tradition.
Yes.
About how teams would rotate there wouldn't be one to repeat.
Yes. Yep.
How long did that go on between the conferences, and who did that affect more than the other, or was it pretty balanced
I
for a
sleep
while?
with kittens. That's my sleep routine and skincare.
All right. So
Eric asked me a question. Eric asked me a question in the chat about my skin routine, and I said I sleep with kittens. I mean, that's a pretty good off-the-cuff remark, isn't it?
It's an off-the-cuff remark. Yes, we'll keep it there. We're going to go to Mike.
I don't own a cat. I feed a feral cat.
Let's start there. So, Mike, here's the deal. Yes, there was a rule in the Big Ten that regardless of the records, regardless of the outcomes of the results, the standings, that a team could not go back to the Rose Bowl the following year. They could be undefeated. They could be the #1 team in the country. They're not going to the Rose Bowl the next year. Then they changed it to, in the 1970s, I don't remember the exact year, but you started to see repeat teams in the 1970s. Like Ohio State went 3 consecutive years in the 70s, but they changed it to then if there was a tie for first place in the Big Ten, that the team and the teams did not play, that the team that went the most recently would stay home, and that's how they broke the tie. And I thought that was ridiculous as well, but it wasn't quite as bad as leaving, top ranked teams home that won the Big Ten championship.
You got a question, George?
No, I want to hear what you had to say about that.
I was just trying to get a history.
He has
lesson.
no idea what you just said, Mark. He was thinking about something else.
Yeah, I cracked open a cold one also.
He was locked
right.
on.
I was thinking Florida by at least one. That's what I think about what you just said.
Well, that's all you need, just the one.
Florida, don't they play the Utes?
Yeah,
I got the Utes making the playoffs.
They can lose to Florida and make the playoffs. That's not a problem.
I don't know about that.
They better win that game.
Bullshit. Miami lost to Florida the first game in 96 or something and won the national title. It can happen.
83. That was a different setup, George.
As long as you lose the first game and don't lose again, anybody can win the national title. Just don't lose again.
Well, that's probably not the way to go about it, but it's possible. Yes, it's possible.
Right. So don't feel bad if you're Utah and you lose the first game. That's not a problem. You should still make the playoffs. You're playing in the freaking Pac-12. Come on. Your team's been together for 5 years. You're all best friends. You're intermarried by now after 5 years. Plus you got the special underwear. It's going to be a good game.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to call in and ask that and give you my dark horses.
Okay.
I remember you made the Oregon State and Air Force, and they were pretty out there. So it doesn't have to be playoff
like
teams.
my dark horses.
Right. The only one I have that's like a dark horse would be East Carolina.
Yeah, that's
I think
dark.
they could upset Cincinnati and knock them out of the rankings.
Okay.
Do you have any dark horses, George? Maybe Florida?
What are we looking at, George?
I'm looking at the chat section. Somebody know how I felt about having Johnny Depp play me in the movie, and I'm like, it was a little bit gay, but it's okay. I'm not gonna gripe about it.
Well,
okay.
I'll let someone else be paired with George.
There we go. Well, George, what's your parting shot, George? Anything else?
No, I'm just gonna sit back. Bring the next caller on. Let's go.
No, we're going two at a time here. We got to keep this moving. We got all sorts of people that have been waiting a long time, so we don't want that to happen. So, Mike, thanks for being here.
All right. Here's my parting shot.
Yes.
Here's my parting shot. I got to shake Bear Bryant's hand in 1971 in Auburn before the game, and Alabama won.
That is phenomenal.
I was cheering for Auburn, but my dad said, "Shake that man's hand, George." I was 11 years old.
And if Bear Bryant was here today,
his hands were bigger than my head. It was like he was a big dude, man.
Well, if Bear Bryant was here to tell us the story, he'd tell us about his brush with greatness.
I had no idea what it meant when that happened. You know what I mean? I really wasn't self-aware at that point.
I was talking about
later on, like
brush with greatness.
Like 20 years later, I was like, I appreciate what you're saying, but it's probably the other way.
Probably. Maybe. All right, George. Thanks.
All right, Mark. Mark, I know a side gig you can do for money. I know how you can teach all the players how they never have to pay taxes on their NIL. They set up a 50C1A trust, and it's non-taxable. That's what billionaires do. And no lawyer will explain it to you, but you can Google right now. You can say, what's the difference between a 508C1A and a 50C13? What's the difference between a 508C1A and a 50C3? Between a church and a pure trust? And the only difference is you never have to report. You never, ever have to talk to the IRS ever again, and they'll never talk to you. They think you're in the kingdom of God. They're afraid to talk to you. This is what billionaires use. Hey, it's on the internet. It's on the internet. Ask the internet what's the difference between a 508c1a and a 50c3. What's the difference?
508
The difference is
I got to look these up.
508c1a.
I can get around taxes,
No.
All right, George.
It's all voluntary. I don't cheer for Tennessee. I don't volunteer for shit. I don't volunteer for any impingement on anything. I like to be free. I'm not a volunteer.
From George tonight. Thanks for that, George.
I'm not an attorney. You can trust me.
You be good, man.
Go Gators.
All back
Beat
this
somebody.
week. We'll see you.
Please, dear God, beat somebody.
All right. We got J-Dub coming up with Jason. Let's get these two together. Appreciate you both being here at the Voice of College Football. How are we doing tonight? J-Dub, what's going on?
I just want to thank you for not pairing me with George.
You're welcome. That's all I'll say.
I wanted to talk about 11-1 Michigan making the playoffs. I agree. There's a scenario. There's a way. The close loss to Ohio State, and then based upon you got two lost conference champions scattered around. But if you're going to be 11-1 and not your conference champion, that one loss better be close. If that's Michigan 11-1 and not making the Big Ten championship game because they lost to Ohio State 42-21, the conversation's over. Michigan's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
it's got to be. It's got to be. That one has to be a close one. Although in that scenario, I do understand. If it's a 38-35 Ohio State win, and you're looking around, and your other alternatives are a 2-loss Baylor, a 2-loss Clemson, let's say, or a 2-loss Pac-12 or whatever. Well, yeah, then Michigan's one looks really good, but it all depends upon what that one really is.
For sure. Jason, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good.
What's going on with you, and what do you want to talk about?
The future of college football.
Oh, okay.
Been thinking. We got the NILs. We got the portal. There's a lot of money coming to these players, right? In the future. The Big Ten just signed that contract, and even Gene Smith was talking about they're thinking about paying these players pretty soon. What's it going to look like here in the next 5 or 10 years in college football? Why even recruit anymore? Just have a draft. All the big colleges just draft, set up a pay scale for the draft, put the kids that go into the portal into the draft every year.
Well, okay, you just touched upon a really good point. Because if these players, and I don't know that they do, I think they do in theory, want to be professionals, then if you're truly going to be a professional, then college football could become a company, just like the NFL's a company. It's an organization. And just like if you get a job at, XYZ company, and they want to assign you to Salt Lake City, and then you get transferred to the Birmingham office, well, you either play for the company or you work for the company, or you go get another job. So if they truly want to be treated as professionals, then college football incorporates, they hire them, they draft them, as you just said. And the kid from Orlando, Florida, who's some stud wide receiver who really wants to play at Florida State, but you're going to get shipped to Wisconsin to play.
Yep. He's getting paid.
That's not going to happen, but
why not?
Well, for
money
that
talks.
Reason. Once it gets to that point, no.
If we're going to have the big conferences, I could see it this coming. We already draft high school kids out of high school
I
for
cannot see.
baseball,
I
for
cannot
hockey.
see a high school kid at 17 or 18 years old being mandated to go to a certain university to play football. I just don't think it's going to come to that.
Uh-huh.
It's no,
He
at
has to
that
put
point, it's
himself.
no longer college football.
Oh, is it already? I mean, they're getting paid here pretty soon. The NILs are going to
I'm
change
not saying
everything.
it shouldn't be treated like that if it gets to a certain point with the money and the pay. I'm not saying that it shouldn't, but
I think it's going to. I think it's
that's
the only fair thing. Or the
We
small
have to-
schools,
oh,
the small
it's
schools
fair.
like Purdue, Indiana, Vanderbilt, they're never going to have the money to pay these kids to be competitive. It's always going to be Bama. It's always going to be Michigan. It's always going to be Georgia. It's always going to be Ohio State.
You
It's
cannot have these. If these kids are classified legally as employees, everything we all love about college football is at that moment dead.
Isn't that what's coming?
The minute they're classified as legally classified as employees, it's all over.
I mean, Gene
Everything
Smith.
you knew about college football is dead.
Well, this is an interesting conversation then, because like I was pointing out earlier this week, Gene Smith was talking about they're getting the big contracts with these networks because they know they're going to be paying the players. How is that not making them employees?
It is.
It is. It's a fine legal line, though. As soon as they're an employee, and you're the left guard on the third team, and you're not living up to standard, you're out. You're gone. You're off my campus. You're out of my dorm. I'm not paying for your education. You're gone. You're an employee. You're working.
Yeah.
You're working at my will. See you later. Bye. Right now, I've got to honor I've got to honor my scholarship that I've offered to you.
Well, that could be in the player's contract, whatever they work up, because they're going to put pay scales in the draft, and they'll probably, hey,
if I'm Bryce Young, why do I go to class? Why should I go to class?
Good point. Might be part of the deal. You have to. You get to pick easy classes, maybe. I don't know. I'm not in that part. I'm not going that deep yet. I'm just looking at it. I could just see it coming. And I also can see JV games. I can see that being content being sold like on Wednesdays. We watch a JV game. I can see that coming as well.
I can see it. I can see the train coming too, but I'm doing everything I can to lay dynamite on the tracks. I want to blow this train up.
I don't see us getting to a point again. I believe in it heading in the direction that you guys are talking about. But when a student athlete that's in high school cannot choose where they're going to go to college, I'm not saying that that would be unfair, because if they're getting paid and college football is incorporated and it's a company, then just like the scenario I just gave,
it happens already. There's players.
It happens at the NFL level.
I'm not to interrupt you, Mark, but there's players already that go through high school all their lives. They're Michigan fans or Buckeye fans. They don't get the scholarship. They go to Indiana. They go to Kent State or somewhere. Or who's that Michigan fan quarterback? He didn't go to Michigan. He went to Oregon.
But they had
5-star.
But he has options.
Money.
He wasn't told, okay, you were drafted
Money.
in the 12th position, therefore you're going to UCLA.
Money. He went to Oregon because he got a better NIL deal. We all understand that. That would be the same as a draft. I got drafted number 2. I'm going to go play for Miami of Florida. I'm a Buckeye fan all my life, but that paycheck's going to be big.
You got to look at the legal definitions here matter. At the moment, the NIL money that Texas A&M is dropping on their recruiting class is not Texas A&M money. It's Texas A&M booster money.
Well, so is Alabama's all the time.
The University of Texas A&M is not giving those kids $1. That's coming from outside sources. Now, if the universities start giving them money. Now we're starting to open up, and here comes all the lawyers. We start opening a nightmare scenario. I hope to God I see it coming. I hope it doesn't happen.
It's going to come because schools like Miami, Florida, Texas A&M, and who knows who else is going to do what you're saying. Boosters are going to be paying like crazy, these players. And schools like Ohio State, Michigan, or Alabama go like, all right, we had enough of this. We need to stop this because we don't have the money in our boosters to compete with these guys.
Eric has just made a great point in the chat. Education is supposed to be a part of this. I just spent part of the day the other day at an Iowa State practice that they had open for the media. There's 85 kids on scholarship there. Two of them might get NFL contracts. The rest of them, if you don't think that their degrees don't matter to them, I got news for you. They very much know that they've got an opportunity to get a degree on the house here. And most of them are not stupid enough to think that they're going to get an NFL contract. They want it. On my way to Ames, I could have thought about Upper Iowa, Iowa Central, Southwestern, Simpson, all the small schools in Iowa where the kids are playing football, that they're getting an education while they're playing the sport. The education still has to matter. It matters to 97% of these kids who are not going to make 1 cent from the NFL. Now you can say, well, it doesn't really matter if they don't make it to the NFL because now they got the NIL money. Well, that might be true, but I fear the day when the degree no longer matters.
Well, JW, it's only going to not matter to them if they're very short-sighted. If they're a 20-year-old who thinks, oh man, I'm making $85,000 or $150,000 for 3 years, and then they can't make an NFL club, and they realize that money's gone in 3 or 4 years, and they didn't go to class.
Well, let me tell you about Charlie. Let me tell you about Charlie Kohler, the All Big 12 tight end. You know Charlie Kohler. You know the name, Mark, the great tight end for Iowa State who just graduated. He got his degree in a very specialized field of mechanical engineering. Very specialized. Iowa State's one of the few universities that offered the specialization he's in, and he got it with high honors. And he was a finalist for the academic Heisman. He's one of the 12 finalists for the academic Heisman. He knows he's going to make more money. He might have a couple of years in the NFL, but he knew he was going to make more money off of his degree than he was ever going to make in the pros, even if he played for 7 or 8 years in the pros, because then he's going to spend the rest of his life doing something. Well, this is his passion. This engineering is his passion. And here you got a guy that's going to get an NFL contract, but his degree absolutely mattered to him. And I agree with what you said. There are short-sighted kids out there that think they're the cock of the walk, and they're going to light it up, and it's their names that's going to be in the headlines. And the ditches are littered with those kids.
Like that quarterback from Texas now?
Well, because what happened, what the talk was 10 years ago was that there were too many juniors leaving college early and not getting drafted because they thought too much of themselves. Well, then the NFL cooperated with college football and said, okay, we're going to give them a draft grade. We're going to survey NFL GMs and personnel directors to let, the LSU running back who thinks he's ready for the NFL know that he's not going to get drafted, or he may get drafted in the 7th round. And then that started to curb those moronic decisions.
Right. I mean, Saban has said all along that from the Alabama standpoint, if he doesn't want his players to leave early, but if he has a player come back and get a guaranteed round 1 or round 2 grade, he understands. He's not in favor of it, but he understands why you go. If you're going to be round 1 or round 2. He's like, you're talking about generational money here. It's understandable. Some of the, look at the NBA. The NBA has 2 rounds. All these kids want to come out. They don't get drafted. Then all of a sudden their eligibility's done. Where are they at now?
Well, unless you're LeBron James and you get drafted from high school.
Yeah, and there's how many of them? One,
Not
two,
many.
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
of millions.
But Kobe was, right? Was he
Well, I'm
another
going
one?
to say this. You know,
That's only
the
two.
season's about to start. People are going to be tailgating. You need supplies to tailgate. Maybe you need a new cooler. You need a couple of things. Maybe it's time to finally get rid of that damn grill you've been dragging around that's been banging around and rust is falling off of it. And you're going to up the grill. So there you go. Where are you going? Amazon. That's right. There's the tag. And when you're on Amazon, you use the Mark Rogers link, and the experience is the same. And you're supporting the great entertainment we're all having right here tonight. And it didn't cost you a squadoosh. The thumbs up, people, and the Amazon link. It's gold.
All right, Mark. It was just something to talk about.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Thanks for having us in, Mark. I know the room's piled up. Thanks for having us in.
Thanks, J-Dub. Jason, I'm sure we can explore that a little bit more later because you make some great points. And
I got other things to talk about. But yeah, nice having B on for once. And I can't wait to watch some of those JV games in the future.
Well, I can do without them, but I appreciate it.
Oh, there'll be us fans watching it.
All right, we got Jeffrey on the line. We got David on the line. Appreciate these two being here at the Voice of College Football. Jeffrey, how you doing? David, how's it going?
I was gonna ask.
Hi, it's the man that gives college football its voice.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll start with Jeffrey here. He was on the line first.
I was gonna ask, what do you think about the new Big Ten media rights deal? I personally don't think not having ESPN is not a problem, but the only thing that I don't like is the Peacock streaming service thing. That's because I know that in future deals that stuff's going to happen more often. I don't like that.
Okay, so David's got two links going here. So David,
okay,
there we go. We got you on camera. All right. So Jeffrey, you want to talk about the we talked quite a bit in previous shows about the Big Ten rights deal. I think it's pretty brilliant in a number of ways. To lock down game windows, this has never been done before at the collegiate level. It's done at the NFL level. To lock down game windows on three major networks at noon, 3:30, and prime time, I think was a genius idea, and obviously Kevin Warren got it from all of his days in the NFL.
I like the deal. The only thing I don't like is the Peacock. That's the only thing I don't like about the streaming services, because I know that's what's going to take over,
Sure.
But that's it. The rest of it's fine. The other thing I was going to ask, too, is who do you think is going to win the Indiana-Illinois game?
So real quick on the streaming service side of this is, and I made this comment earlier, is I believe what we can expect is obviously those are going to be the low grade games, but don't be surprised. I believe the number is 8 per season, that they hit us with 1 or 2 that they're going to try to move the needle. Not like the best game of the year, but there might be a Minnesota-Wisconsin game. Let's put it in this pretty big game. Let's throw it on there. We're going to try to the same strategy you saw out of ESPN when they launched the SEC network. That would be the worst games. The worst games from the worst SEC teams, with the worst games are playing on the SEC network. But every couple weeks, boom, they'd hit you with there's a Florida-South Carolina game, pretty good game. Not the best game of the week, but we're going to throw some other ones on there, try to push the needle to make SEC fans buy the service. So I would expect that. Indiana, Illinois, where is that gem going to be played this year?
At IU.
At IU. Well, I do expect Indiana to bounce back. They're not as bad as they were last year. And as you well know, they didn't play that poorly early in the season before they just got ravaged by injuries.
Yeah, I was just going to add, Mark, do you think that this is a bounce back year from Indiana? Because I saw DiNardo and them do their breakdown. It didn't seem like they were as high on Indiana as they were maybe the last couple years. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
Well, I know that both of us were talking similarly last year that we didn't expect Indiana to show up and be the 17th ranked team in the country that they were in the preseason. I had them around 500. Obviously, they didn't even hit that mark. But yeah, they're not going to go 0-9 in the Big Ten. I think Connor Baslick's a very accurate quarterback. He turns it over a little bit. His TD to pick ratio hasn't been outstanding, but he's a high percentage guy, and obviously is used to facing SEC defenses. So Indiana, Illinois playing at IU, I don't know. I think they're very, very similar teams, very similar graded teams.
I just want to say I was surprised that Bielema got Illinois to 6-6 last year.
5-7.
5-7.
I'm sorry, 5-7. Okay, yeah. I mean, I thought it was actually going to be a real struggle that first year there. But I mean, the guys won some games before. Although I think that Arkansas stint was disappointing to a lot of people. I was going to ask Mark, who is your sleeper in the Big Ten this year? Maybe you've already mentioned it, but who is the 2019 Minnesota? Who's the team that can bounce out and have a big year?
Well, do you consider Minnesota a sleeper?
I mean, are you going to say that they're going to go 11-2 again? Maybe even 10-3?
Yes.
Wow. That's a projection record-wise by Mark Rogers,
not
right?
necessarily my projection. It's
Okay.
not been released yet, but I think it's possible, more than possible.
Okay.
I kind of like, if their division wasn't so stacked, I kind of like what Maryland's doing.
Oh, I agree with that. That was going to be my sleeper.
Yeah.
I love Jarrett. I think, Jarrett's the best receiver in the Big Ten. Or right up there is one of the best receivers in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
After Njigba and a few other folks,
And his
he's
running
one of the better
mate,
ones.
John Demas, is a really good one as well.
Right.
And so if you look at Maryland, I wouldn't be surprised if they beat either Michigan State or Penn State.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. What is the chances of Scott Frost keeping his job this year, too? What are you banking on that? 7, 8 wins? What do you think it's got to be done there?
Well, I think if he goes 8-4, he keeps his job. If he goes 5-7, he loses his job. 6-6, 7-5, I think, is a judgment as to, okay, were they competitive against the best teams? How's the recruiting going? How are they trending up, and did they look good? Like if last year's season would have been 7-5, and they would have played Ohio State, Michigan State, and those teams as close as they did, then if he gets that season, then he's keeping his job. But I think 8-4 for sure, 5-7 for sure, he's out the door, and the 6-6, 7-5 is going to be a real decision time for the administration.
Other thing, Mark, I heard McElroy on ESPN, and I try not to listen to ESPN that much, especially considering they no longer employ you, Mark. But that being said,
that was my decision.
Okay, and by the way, the right one, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
I just want to say,
yes,
I think McElroy had a good call on Texas A&M being overrated at 7. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. That seemed a little bit high. I would think their year to rise would be next year when that recruiting class, becomes sophomores. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. That seemed a little high to me, and I agreed with them.
That's exactly my thought, and I've said this a few other spots here and there, that Texas A&M's in this odd place where this is Jimbo Fisher's 5th season.
Yeah.
Like, this is time from an overarching program standpoint. It's time. He's making all this money. He's had all this recruiting success. And of course, everyone focuses on 22, but even the prior recruiting classes were top 6 to 8 type classes. And they should be hitting a crescendo to make that, and cycling up to make that push. But uncertainty at quarterback, you're either going to play an inexperienced quarterback in Haynes King, who only played 2 Group of 5 teams last year, or you're going to be starting Max Johnson, who's a capable quarterback, but he's not elite, nowhere close to it. And their front 7 on defense was obliterated. Now they're going to replace all those guys with talented guys.
Right.
But to your point, the impact of this 22 class is only going to be so much.
Yeah.
And I don't think they have a wide receiver. Anaya Smith's a nice player, but their wide receiver core has not been good. Rated and recruited highly, but they don't have production there. They lose their best player, Isaiah Spiller, on offense. I don't think they're like this isn't. It should be the year from a program standpoint, but it just doesn't seem to be coming together like that.
Yeah, I would think their year to explode would be in 23. You know, once those players get a little bit more seasoned. Also wanted to get your thoughts. Utah, better chance to make the playoff than Clemson. What do you think of that statement?
What do you think of that, Jeffrey?
I'd probably still have to go with Clemson by a little bit because of the fact that ACC is better than the Pac-12 by a little bit. I mean, if Utah beats Florida and they run the table, they can make it. But
by your statement, man, you're saying that the ACC is tougher. Wouldn't that create an easier path for Utah to come out of the Pac-12?
Yeah, that's true, but Clemson's a better team, I think, than Utah.
Okay.
They got like more 5-star players.
yeah.
I'm not saying 5-star players are the be-all and end-all, but they just got better NFL talent on their team than Utah does.
I agree. I think that defensive line. What do you think? Best defensive line in college football this year, Mark?
I do.
Okay.
I decidedly do.
Yeah, it's all. Can DJ come to the party? And I mean, I also wonder. We talked about it before. Is their skill to the level that it was maybe a few years ago, or even close to that? Backs, receivers, all that. That's what I'm wondering. Hey, last thing, Mark, from me. I heard this from Biddle. And hopefully you'll have Steve Merrill back this year for his betting picks. Is that a plan?
I got to get on that.
Okay.
Yes, he's wide open for that, but I haven't talked to him forever. That's glad you brought that up.
Well, I'm hoping for more Steve Merrill. Although I go with Mark Rogers picks over Steve Merrill. I just want to say I like your track record a slightly bit better, my friend. I'd also like to see more Phil Steele this year if we can, but that's also see if that's a possibility. Too. But Ohio State, Notre Dame over 59. What are both of you guys' thoughts? Take the over.
I'll probably have to go the over as well because Ohio State scores too much.
I'm not a big over/under guy, but I know what my score prediction is in my head, so I'm over that.
Yeah, I got to think that's easy. I mean, I'm
none though.
42-21, 42-24.
That sounds about right if that happens.
You're liking Ohio State a lot more than I am.
What's that, Mark?
You're liking the Buckeyes a lot more than I am.
Mark, I'm on record as saying it right now. I think we're going to have the best offense in college football.
Oh, I do too.
I mean,
think that game's going to be a tough game.
Okay. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm excited about this offense. I think a few of those defensive linemen are going to come to play this year. I only think we need to be, and I talked about this last time, maybe top 20 to top 30 on defense this year. We were 58th last year, so we got nowhere to go but up. So.
All right, David, anything else?
That's all I got. You're going to be back with Big Ten show on Wednesday?
Yes, we actually have a Big Ten podcast. Maybe I'll make that announcement right this second. So there's a new podcasting platform that reached out to me, and they're gathering a lot of really good podcasters from across the nation.
Are you going to have Dace on?
Pardon me?
Are you going to have Dace on?
I may have Dace on, but they've asked me to do a Big Ten podcast, an audio podcast. And it's going to be on the College Football Coast to Coast Network. So we're going to drop those links and have all that stuff available, but they want me to produce a Big Ten podcast every Monday. So we'll have to work on that.
Hey, should I send you something to be available for the Ohio State games? You still got that out there. So, hey, I can be your man, Mark.
All right, David. We appreciate it.
All right. Always a pleasure, Mark.
Thanks, David.
Yep. Take care.
Can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
Who do you think is going to be the worst Power 5 team this year?
Well, we got Duke, we got Kansas. I don't think it's going to be Kansas. I think it's Vanderbilt was awful last year. You wouldn't think a team in the SEC would be the worst team in the country, but they probably were last year. I'm going to go with Duke under a first-year head coach. Mike Elko.
And the other thing is too is that I heard someone say earlier that no teams can like become good. I kind of disagree because of the fact you have all these academic schools that don't win because of the fact they put a lot of their money in the academics, not their athletics programs, like Northwestern and Duke and even Indiana. But I think like the other guy was talking about boosters. I mean, just say some booster wanted to make any of those teams good, they could become good, right?
Yeah, especially at a place like, well, really all the places that you mentioned, because the academic money is phenomenal. That's one of the jokes about Stanford. Basically, anyone at Stanford is going to be anyone else's boss that's playing football that doesn't make it to the NFL. Yeah, absolutely. But Northwestern, they just put a ton of money into a new football facility. It's supposed to be beautiful right there on the lake.
Yeah, I don't know why Indiana don't try to make their football better because of the fact that the basketball hasn't been good in a long time. And, I mean, they need some sport to be good. So I think they should invest a lot into football because, I mean, this is the best time to do it right now with the new media rights deal and all the money they got coming in. So
I don't see this happening, but again, based on what we've seen recently in college football and with paying players and with expansion and realignment and all this, who knows what conference commissioners are capable of down the road in terms of saying, bye-bye, Indiana, you're not valuable anymore. See you. I would have never thought that that was possible, but who knows? All right, Jeffrey, appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right, let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you all being here. We will pick off the next two, which we got our guy Ballard Sports Media. We got Tim here. Let's get these two in here. We don't want two USC guys in at the same time, so we'll split up Tim and Rick here. Christian, how you doing, Tim?
Good. Actually, Tony and I wanted to get on. Tony and Rick and I wanted to get on to talk about the show.
Oh, hey, absolutely. We'll keep you
me
on after this. Okay, very good. Hey, Christian, what's going on?
Not much, Mark. I actually wanted to talk to you tonight about Brian Harsin and Auburn and an article that I had read this afternoon. I've read a couple things this week because I get like these notifications and everything, but I read something that was about the quarterback competition between Robbie Ashford, Zach Calzada, TJ Finley, and how it could be a big key to maybe saving Auburn this season and maybe even Brian Harsin's job. Because I know there's been, which I still don't understand it, because last year was his first year with the program, but he's had a lot of heat. So what do you make of that? And then would you agree that making the right move at quarterback could be key to, if he is on a hot seat, I guess saving him?
Okay, so I'm with you, Christian, in regards to the performance on the field not being as bad as people made it out to be. If you really look at what Auburn did last year, and you know this as an Alabama fan, they outplayed Alabama for 59 minutes.
Right.
They were a really good team last year. I don't care that they went 6-7. They were 6-2 at one point. They lost Bo Nix. They had that collapse at Mississippi State after they lost Bo Nix. They really only played one bad game, and that was against Texas A&M when they lost like 15-3.
Right.
They were a really good team. And the bowl game was what it was. They had like 5 defensive starters that moved on to the NFL and opted out, and they didn't have Bo Nix at that point. Tank Bigsby, I don't even think, played in that game, and now he's back. The knock against Harsin was obviously there were just a lot of peculiar personnel situations that didn't seem to make sense. Like when a guy that's as respected as Derek Mason leaves to take a job for $300,000 less at what Oklahoma State fans won't like this, but it's a lesser football program. I know they're better right this second, but Oklahoma State is not Auburn. And then the offensive coordinator leaves, and it was just, and then obviously all the rumors came out about his personal conduct and what else was going on, and which had to be investigated. So even though he came through that and apparently is innocent of all that, it's almost like the deal when there's bad reporting out there and somebody gets slammed for something that they didn't do, and then there's a retraction in the newspaper or online now, and it gets buried and nobody notices the retraction.
Yeah.
So Brian Harson's got a lot of bad press to weed through, and as long as that investigation was accurate, he didn't create it. I feel bad for him on that level.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think he really did anything wrong. I think, he's kind of kept it clean since he got in last year. And, like I said, I'm glad you cleared it up because I really didn't understand that. But then the other thing I wanted to ask about Auburn was what's your take on, the quarterback situation? Because they do bring in, I've heard some good things, not a whole lot about Robbie Ashford, who I believe is a true freshman. And then you got TJ Finley, who is more experienced. But what sticks out to me is you look at what A&M did last year and how good the offense was. Zach Calzada, do you think he could? I mean, because that's probably one of the more intriguing quarterback competitions of the summer.
It is. So Robbie Ashford's a baseball player, really talented kid, really athletic guy that is a bit of a runner, but we've not seen him play, so I can't evaluate his play at the collegiate level except to know what his background was in high school. And then you look at TJ Finley. Now TJ Finley, hey, if anything, I'll call the guy a gamer for basically playing Alabama on one leg in the second half and staying out there. And really, he was a sitting duck in that game. But I do not think TJ Finley's the answer. That Calzada, if you look at his performance against the SEC outside of the Alabama game, it's not good. He threw pretty much the same TD. Basically, this is what Zach Calzada did against everybody. I'm including the Missouris of the world. Look at his completion percentage week after week after week was in the 50% range. He's thrown for 150, 170 yards, and he pretty much finished with a 1-to-1 ratio of TDs to picks. Zach Calzada, he's got a really strong arm.
He does.
He's not a super mobile guy. He's a fairly athletic guy. I remember getting most familiar with him listening to Jimbo Fisher run them down the previous spring game. And he said Calzada is a more athletic guy than he gets credit for because he was being compared to Haynes King, who is a better athlete. But that's a pretty, when you compare them to Will Rogers, Bryce Young, maybe a Jaden Daniels wins the LSU job. We just saw Matt Corral at Ole Miss, and it's going to be Jackson Dart most likely. And then, on down the line, Hendon Hooker and all those guys in the SEC. If you match up the winner of the Auburn quarterback job against those guys, it doesn't
It's
look
not
really
even close. Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. I think, and you got to think too with honestly, now that I think about it, because you got to think a guy like Zach Calzada, the term systematic quarterback, he's got to learn a new offense. He's got to come in. He's got to earn the job. And, he probably could do that. And I understand you're not saying that he's not talented or anything like that. But then you look at TJ Finley, who already knows the system, who it seemed last year won over the offense. I think it's his to lose. And I think it's been that from day one this offseason.
Okay. Yeah, he hasn't impressed me in the times, but again, there's limited tape on those two guys. Finley and Ashford, there's really nothing, and Calzada was an average quarterback last year who had an exceptional 5 drives against Alabama. All right, Christian, anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thanks for always having me on, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks.
All right. We got Tim, we got Rick, we got Tony. They're taking over.
And
Boys, how we doing?
Bauer didn't pump his channel. He forgot to pump his own channel. I don't know why he didn't do that. Bauer Sports. Good.
Excellent.
How you doing?
I'm good. So what we've got here, everyone, is we got Tim next to me, we got Rick catty corner to me, and Tony below.
How you doing?
And we appreciate these guys getting together for a USC post-game show that they're going to bring each and every Saturday night on the USC channel. That's
I
going to
think
be
someone might
phenomenal.
have their YouTube on in the background. ULBC.
I'm here. You have
Yes,
your YouTube video
I'm
on
hearing
too?
myself 10 seconds ago. Yes.
You might have to mute the YouTube feed.
I'm here.
Yeah. There, I just killed it out of somebody.
Okay.
So
Yeah, good. We just wanted to come on and let Tony, our spokesperson, talk about our
Okay.
new plan with you.
we'll turn Tony over then, because I muted you. Just not that we don't want to hear from you, Tony. Of course, I would never want to mute Tony. He's the smartest guy in the room. But yeah, there was some kind of feedback there. But anyway, Tony,
It's always,
appreciate you
always
being
safe to
here.
keep me muted. My mother would say that's good advice. No, we're excited. The three of us are going to be joining some folks and hosting a post-game live for the USC game, with the main idea of having some special guests and having you guys get a chance to chat about the USC game after it happens. So we'll go live on Mark's USC channel as soon as the game ends. And for the home games, we'll have Tim calling in live from the Coliseum to fill us in. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, it's going to be mostly about you guys. So we're hoping as many of you guys want to come as possible. And we'll even endure some of the good laughs in the super chats. So we're judicial protests and all those guys. Eric, we hope you guys are ready.
I'm so excited about that. I got the USC helmet out. Yes,
Oh,
Tim.
fight on.
Wait, are you already pimping me out like Joey does? Wow, that's so messed up, man. Good Lord. Yeah, no, we're really excited for all the Trojan and the closet Trojan fans out there, and all the Trojan haters. We welcome everybody. Also, all of our Pac-12 brothers coming in. There's a lot of you guys in here right now, and we would really appreciate your support. So definitely come by and check us out.
We'd love to have you guys, and we love your thoughts. This is going to be a really exciting year for USC. There's really in the history of college football, there's never been a team with this much complete rebuild of the entire staff, the entire roster, the support staff. Everything about USC is new this year. And so we hope you guys will be along for the ride with us as we see where it goes, breaking some new ground.
So here's the deal that maybe a lot of people that don't know, that haven't been with me going back to last season, but we came up with this idea. I come up with an idea once in a while to say, okay, what could really establish these team channels with more credibility, more engagement? Let's do post-game shows. So I was able to gather up post-game hosts for about 15 of the channels last year, and they worked extremely well. People loved them. The host came on right after the game, and I am like pumped, ecstatic that these three, Tim, Rick, and Tony, would want to do this for our USC channel. We did not have USC post game last year, but now we've got it locked down with these three, and it should be phenomenal.
It'll be. Yeah. We're looking forward to it. Michael Hogue, to answer your quick question, the receivers that Caleb's going to throw to, those are going to be, and
it should be phenomenal.
Oh, can somebody mute whoever's still got their YouTube on? I think it looks like it's going to be Mario Williams and Jordan Addison. And I don't know if you guys heard, Jordan Addison just signed a new deal with United Airlines because, as he says, new routes are on the way starting this fall. Mario Williams and Jordan Addison. I don't know if you guys heard, Jordan Addison just signed a new deal.
LBC, I think you still have that YouTube feed going on both times. So it keeps that. That's what that delay is. Well, not just Jordan Addison and Mario Williams. You got, Gary Bryant Jr. A lot of people don't know him, but he was a high 4-star. Guys that got legit 4.4 speed. He's going to take the top off the defense. You got Brendan Rice from Colorado. Big, tall,
son of Jerry.
Son of Jerry Rice. And a lot of people forgot about him because he had a knee injury. But Kyle Ford's a 6'4", he caught a gorgeous over his shoulder touchdown, like a 50-yard touchdown pass in the spring game. But he's a 5-star receiver. So, and then Terrell Bynum, he was honorary All Pac-12 mention last year. He'll be I think a senior this year. So they're stacked. I mean, they are stacked at receiver. To answer your question, Boiler Up.
So this is the first time I've been able to tap Tony and Tim for like deep USC knowledge. So I got like, for as many times as I've talked to you guys and had you guys on, we've been talking about just college football coast to coast and all the big topic matters and all of that. That I love that breakdown on the USC wide receiver room. Listen to that.
And Eric is right. A USC post game last year would have been sadder than an ASPCA commercial.
Was that the most nondescript, just off the radar U.S. football season ever? You guys,
it was the kind of football season where you know that it's just tattered and torn. It's like walking home from a party with like one shoe, and you don't know where your car is, and you don't have your keys, and you're not sure how you're going to get back into the house. That's how the USC football season felt last year. But we trusted in Dr. Folk, we trusted in Mike Bone, and they came through for it. So.
Yeah, it goes off the rails quick, right, Tony? When you have your cornerbacks coach become your head coach, right?
It does. Well, it also makes a statement, because one of the statements they were making is we're not keeping the staff around. And Dante Williams is a great guy. He's going to go on to be a great, successful head coach at someday, and he's going to talk in his book as he's like that great coach of Auburn in the future, or something like that. It's talking in his book about what a nightmare it was to lead the team through that season and all the things he learned, I'm sure. But that was definitely a let's hold the fort. One of the things that I think that season really showed, in the last couple of years of USC has really showed, is that this is an era where, with recruiting being what it is, empires can rise and fall fast, and you can't just hang on. Once the plane's going down, you almost got to put it out of its misery and restart. And USC's done that like nobody else. So I'm really excited for it. And we want to hear what you guys think. Rule number 1, as everybody keeps saying, do not lose to food. Josh Pate reminds us with USC's opener with Rice. But it's going to go straight from Rice, Stanford. We got Fresno. We've got Oregon State. I mean, it's going to be a wild, interesting season. And I mean, we can say what we want about Fresno, but Jake Haener was like a hero last year. Literally a character out of Game of Thrones, marching that team down to win the Rose Bowl. So we're going to hope he doesn't do that at the Coliseum.
Yeah, on one leg. That was one of the most amazing drives towards the end on one leg I've seen, in quite a while.
Yeah, Arya Stark in action.
It's going to be an interesting season, because we're getting a kind of a snapshot of what the future, like it or not, of college football is going to be like, where it's not going to take 3 years to rebuild. I do see all the question marks. There are a ton of question marks to USC football. I'm still kind of sticking with my 8-4 for the one reason only, is that we have 2 great lines, and people don't understand it. You're looking at a bunch of 6-year seniors. Voorhees is an AP preseason first-team All-American at left guard. We got a couple of transfers came in. And for running back, that I'm sure the Oregon fans are aware of, but we also have Austin from Stanford. So it's going to be a really interesting experiment. 8-4 is where I'm at, simply because, we are paper thin on our lines, and anyone knows that, we have some teams at the end of the year, including UCLA, that if we don't have that defensive line intact, it could get messy with Notre Dame and UCLA. But hey, who knows?
I'm on board with 8-4 as well. There's going to be issues. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be these games that you should win, but you don't. And we've got some historical challenges that up in Corvallis, Oregon State, for some reason, always has our number. Fresno State is going to be ready with Jake Haener and Tedford. Tedford's very familiar with USC and
not afraid.
Yeah, he's a great coach. So. But
I'll tell you guys one of the things. So when I was a junior in college, I actually was the host of the other team's cheerleaders, which is really fun. And one game when I think it was Purdue, and then I remember San Diego State as well, but Purdue especially. Like those Purdue guys, when they came into the Coliseum, sorry, that was weird. Sorry, noise going on. When they came into the Coliseum, there was wild, just like big wide eye, like it was something new. They were staring up at the list of the national championships and the Rose Bowls and all that kind of stuff. But the thing about a Tedford coach team and led by Jake Haener and stuff, they're not intimidated. Oregon State is not intimidated. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. But the Coliseum will be rocking. And one of the cool things is when Tim's at the games, we're gonna be able to get direct hearing about what it was like and get that kind of like in the stadium atmosphere report and have that for you guys live after the game to chat and ask him questions.
Tim, I think we're going to have to hook up outside of the tunnel, outside the press box entrance. We'll go get next to one of those hot dog trucks. We'll have a post-game hot dog. We'll talk about USC football. Give everybody a little flavor of what's happening in SoCal.
Those bacon-wrapped hot dogs.
That's right, baby.
The Russian roulette dogs, yeah, I'm down. You can pick up the one that has the E. coli in it.
There you go. We're going to go ahead and give you the taste, the flavor of the field of USC football. Hey, in a Fresno State SC, we're going to have a huge crowd. Bring in all the haters. We love it. That's what college football is all about. It's going to be a great year.
It is, and we'll sit there and have to take it because believe me, we took it last year.
We appreciate you, Mark, the voice of college football. You give your fans a voice. You are awesome. And I look forward to this opportunity with Tim and TJ. It's going to be a great time. So come join us after USC football games. Both Tim and I have season seats, and it's going to be a great time.
And I'm in Florida, so I'll be watching from afar, wishing I was there next year.
And then we're also planning for all of our Pac-12 guys, right? Like, all of our great Oregon State fans, UCLA fans, Duck fans, and Utah fans. Am I leaving anybody out? I'm not sure if I'm leaving anyone out. Oh, sorry. We also have Pickles, dude, at Washington. We're really gonna lean on you guys, and we're hoping to try to launch something. Mark, I think we talked about it briefly about a Pac-12 because on the internet I see Pete's got the ACC show, and you have lots of shows out there. And D4, he has his shows that have a lot of the other conferences. I really wanted to find something maybe Pac-12 centric. So I want to give all of us a voice too. It might just be us 8 sitting in an echo chamber, but hopefully we can get some other people coming to check in. But really looking forward to having all of the Mark Rogers Pac-12 guys come join us.
Absolutely. That'll be phenomenal as well. You guys can come up with a show name. Just let me know on that. But might just be the Pac-12 show or whatever you guys want to call it. It's up to you guys.
And then there's a third big show. Exploring with Ben's got have a really fun. It's gonna be like an after, like a late night. He hasn't really nailed down a time, but I think it's gonna be like Sunday evenings, where it's just gonna be a time for everyone, all college football, to get together and just maybe decompress and talk about the big games and the big events, the turning points. So again, hopefully we can get some traction on that as well.
Absolutely, good stuff. TJ, Rick, Tim, man, this is going to be fun. I can just kick back and I'm going at it 100 miles an hour on Saturday, but I will watch the replay and this will be every USC game after the game on the USC channel. And then in addition to that, there'll be certain games we'll have always on the USC channel, but simulcast on other channels, depending on who the Trojans are playing, i.e. Notre Dame and possibly Oregon in a Pac-12 championship game. And that will be a whole lot of fun.
And anybody at the games, if you eat one of the bacon-wrapped suicide hot dogs, send us a video. We will put it on. You are brave.
And come join us on Patreon. Patreon is awesome. I joined it about a month ago. I've met all these characters. We talk college football at all times during the day. Eric, Exploring with Ben and Sam, One Scoop John. A lot of great college football talk. We're jacked. We're ready. So good luck to everybody and their teams. But after the first week, all hell's going to break loose. We're going to have a lot of fun.
And remember, if you drink enough, the alcohol will pickle any E. coli that you have from the hot dog. So you'll be okay.
It will. I can attest to that from 4 years. And Tim, you got to tell me if the guy is still there coming through the student section with that margarita mixing backpack that's $1 less if he pours it directly in your mouth.
It's
I
more
miss
from
that
the
guy.
sound of bottles rolling down from the student section. The clank, 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 clank on the way down. But now that they've opened up the alcohol, that's happening a lot less. Now, my favorite is now they used to guy that guys with water. That he opens up his cooler and there's there's beer and there's all kinds of drinks.
All kinds of things. It's the Shady Coliseum. I love it. Of course, when I was there, the Coliseum was one of very few places you could put alcohol on your meal plan. Never mind that no one over 19 had a meal plan. So it's great. Fight on, guys.
Thanks, Mark.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, you guys. You guys are the best. I am.
We'll see you guys.
Looking forward to seeing these guys chop up USC football each and every week. That's going to be on the USC channel, of course, here at the Voice of College Football with TJ, Tim, and Rick on USC postgame. Well, let's bring in these two, and then we'll call it a night. We got Colvarks, and we got D4 showing up.
Howdy.
How are we doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing just fine. Colvarks, let's start with you since you were in the chat here first. What did you want to hit on tonight?
Well, I mean, I'm a big Nebraska fan, so I was just, I'm laser focused on this Saturday because for us, that's game one. I know the team departed for Dublin today, but, I'm honestly a little nervous for that game. Nebraska keeps everything close.
I would be too.
Yeah, I just, Northwestern, every other year, they seem to always, be in the driver's seat in the Big Ten West, and we're due for that this year. So, but when I look at this roster, I don't see enough there. So I see people in the chat, mentioning who they've got. I'm taking us, but, I think it'll be close. Of course, there'll probably be a lot more Nebraska fans there than Northwestern fans, but.
Well, there's a reason you're a 12.5-point favorite.
I haven't looked at the spread.
Yeah, the Northwestern roster isn't much. They're not cycling up, and I got all the respect in the world for Pat Fitzgerald, but we're lucky here with having D4 here. You want to talk about a guy that can give you a scouting report on your starting quarterback? He's right here.
Howdy.
How's it going?
What do you think, D4? Casey Thompson at Nebraska. What did you like or not like about Casey Thompson? Because I remember the first time I saw him was in the Alamo Bowl when he came in against Colorado, and I was like, I know this is only 10 passes, but he showed me different arm angles. He showed me tight window throws. I was impressed and a big fan right out of the gate.
Yeah, Casey Thompson's one of those guys, man. He can make mostly all the throws. He can be a mobile quarterback as well. I think he's going to bode well in that Nebraska offense. He has a familiar receiver that came with him from Texas and Marcus Washington.
Yep.
So those two played a lot together there in Texas. And I think you're getting a high character guy and a leader in your locker room. So that's what impressed me the most about him last year.
Yeah, he's not a captain, though. They announced the captains, and he's not one of them. I don't know if I'm not putting too much into that.
Yeah, him being there, basically the spring or was he there in the spring?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
okay.
He was.
Yeah.
He played in the spring game. Yep.
Yeah, him being there in the spring and everything, him just being there, he's a new guy. I wouldn't expect him to be, a captain that soon, and he's got 1 year left. So, but like I said, he's super, super knowledgeable guy. He's got a high football IQ. He's got family bloodlines. His dad played at Oklahoma. So you definitely got a good one in Casey Thompson.
Yeah. One, he's got some good wide receivers to throw to. You've got Alante Brown, Trey Palmer, Omar Manning. I mean, these aren't Alabama caliber guys, but if he's able to get the ball to them, they're going to be able to make some plays. So,
right, exactly. I had some rapid fire questions for Mark.
Before we join you for these rapid fire questions, I want to make sure that everybody knows where to find you and your channel and your great content.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, D4 Sports. I do top 10 videos. I do live college football show Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. I'll be doing an X's and O's film study show this season where I'll be taking games and me and Jordan Bowman will be breaking them down and telling you the X's and O's of why certain things happened. So
that's phenomenal. And Defoe's going to be here for us as he was last night or earlier tonight.
Yeah.
Right. And then last week doing some Texas content here at the Voice of College Football. So we appreciate D4 being here.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to do the post game shows and everything. Everybody that I've worked with in your community is absolutely spot on. Everybody knows their stuff, and just great guys to get to talk to. If you haven't already joined the Patreon, I can't stress enough how great these guys are when you get in that Discord and you're able to talk football and just enjoy people's company that are like-minded like yourself.
Yeah, we're going to get to a point with this where I'm not going to be able to do anything. Like we're going to have so many better content creators and people to break this stuff down. It's going to be like, oh, Mark showed up, really? So let's get him out of the way.
Well, you're still great too. We enjoy listening to you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say though, because obviously, I'm a Nebraska fan. If everything went perfect for Nebraska, like where is the absolute highest this team could go? And also, if everything went as terrible as possible, what's the lowest you think they could possibly go?
Okay. Well, the obvious for the one plus side would be 12-0 because that sounds ridiculous, and it is ridiculous. But there's nobody on Nebraska's schedule that they can't beat in a one-game situation. But realistically, I would be shocked if this team did any better than 9-3. I got to think that 9-3 is the ceiling for Nebraska football. Yeah.
Yeah. I've personally got them at 8-4. I've seen 9-3 multiple places.
Oh, I'm not picking them to go 10-2 or 9-3. I'm just saying that's my ceiling.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd have them at 7-5, 8-4, but I think they'll be competitive in every game. I see this team being just like last year's, except able to actually close some of the games out.
Yeah, and the big thing for Nebraska from a schedule standpoint is you replace Ohio State and Michigan State with Rutgers and Indiana.
Yeah, and you've got Indiana at home, so that final, 4-game stretch, though, that's going to be interesting. You've got Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa. I don't know if they're going to be able to make it to the Big Ten championship, they're going to have to win at least 2 of those games, probably 3.
Yeah, I was looking at it. I did a record prediction you may want to check out on the Nebraska channel.
Yep, saw that.
Yeah, I kind of grouped that stretch drive with Purdue. There was one other game in there. I think it was the
Oklahoma.
Well, I'm looking at the back half of the schedule. Right down the stretch, it was all the toughies were there. Minnesota, Purdue, Iowa, Wisconsin, and then there was one other.
Michigan.
5.
Michigan at the Big House.
Yeah. So out of those 4 out of the Big Ten West, they've got to win 3 of those 4 to win the division.
Yeah. I mean, I think the ceiling, because the Big Ten West is really close. You've got a lot of teams right there who are, I think, fairly close together in the grand scheme of things. I think 1 or 2 will pop out as the clear front runners, but right now, between Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, Purdue, I know I'm missing someone out, Minnesota, like Iowa, any of those teams, they could realistically win the West, or, they could go 7-5 and not be near it. So I feel like that's going to be a really interesting division to watch, because I don't feel like in the East, I think we're all pretty confident it'll be Ohio State, maybe Michigan. But in the West, it's a little bit more. Well, it's a lot
I think it's the most intriguing division race in college football.
Yeah, I totally agree.
All right, man. We appreciate you stopping by.
All right.
Call back anytime.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one. Make sure to leave a like. everyone. So, yeah.
Thanks,
See you
man.
later.
Have a good night. Oh, whoa. Let's get D4 back in here. Double click there. Well, I didn't double click, but you know the deal.
I got you.
Clicked him off at the same time he clicked himself off, so that took you off. But D4, appreciate you being here. So what did you want to get into here?
All right, I'm gonna give you two names, about 6 questions, and you give me your first gut reaction on who you would take.
Yep.
All right, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud.
Young.
Travion Henderson, Bijan Robinson.
Bijan.
Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jordan Addison.
JSN.
Okay. You really surprised me there on the Stroud and Bijan. All right, let's go Michael Mayer, Brock Bowers.
Bowers.
All right, Kirby Smart or Dabo Swinney.
That's a great question. Well, I ranked Dabo ahead of him, so I got to stay with my rankings. Dabo.
I did the same thing. I have Dabo slightly ahead of him, so yeah.
I got them 2 and 3.
Yeah, I have the same. All right. Well, there's the rapid fire questions I figured I'd give you, and
those are tough. Yeah.
I'll have some more for you next week. Different positions or different in something. I'll just try to come in and give you some rapid fire every week.
I like those.
All right.
Keep me sharp.
Y'all have a great night. I appreciate you, Mark, for everything that you do for the community, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thanks, D4. Appreciate that. Again, we got our guy D4. You can catch him on YouTube, D4 Sports, right here on YouTube with some great analysis. And D4 is going to help us out with postgame along with Matthew Miller, Texas postgame. So what we're really hurting for right this second is we're looking to wrap up Miami postgame and Ohio State postgame. Those are the two that are a bit shaky right now in regards to us securing postgame hosts. But we're all set for Penn State. We're all set for Michigan. And we are all set for Nebraska, Iowa, Oklahoma, Texas, Virginia Tech, Florida State, Miami. Well, not Miami. Miami and Ohio State are the two sore spots. Would love to have an Oregon postgame. Had a few people feel it out, but we've not been able to secure anyone for Oregon either. And some other, I got to tell you this, any team channel, we want a postgame show. So any of them, including poor North Carolina. Here, we're going to honor our two struggling channels. Those would be the two right there. Wisconsin and North Carolina are the two struggling channels with like 90 subs. But I can't pay attention to all of them. So they've kind of suffered. But if somebody wanted to do Wisconsin or North Carolina postgame, absolutely. And you know what? To make sure that somebody would be watching, we would simulcast. We wouldn't just throw you on the North Carolina channel for like 4 people to watch you. No. We would simulcast on North Carolina and on the main channel, so you would have an audience. But man, the postgame shows are phenomenal, and I've got to thank everybody across the board. Too many to count, too many to name right now, but we had a really good run of postgame shows last year, and we expect to do the same as long as we can pull through with Ohio State and Miami as well. All right. I think we've wrapped it up for a Monday night here at the Voice of College Football. We'll be back on Tuesday with, I got a Michigan podcast recording with Steve Dace at 3. Then we knock it out with USC at 4 Eastern, Iowa at 5:30, Nebraska at 7. Right here at the Voice of College Football. We will see you on Tuesday.